This is another episode of UFO Garage.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Joe, and this is where we talk about UFOs, aliens, and all things weird.
Oh yeah, dude.
And we are two sides of the coin.
Oh no.
Shout out to that one time I was abducted by aliens. That's actually their thing.
Yeah, we stole it.
We stole it. So for this episode, at least, we'll see if they're paying attention.
Yeah, we'll see what they say.
We'll see if they're fans yet.
Yeah,
and maybe they'll message us.
Hell yeah, dude.
Hey, that's ours.
Hey, wait a minute.
We're not gonna steal it. We promise. We promise. We just wanted to do that because it was funny. Thanks for the shout out on y'all's podcast. That was so nice of you guys.
That was sick. That was
so
awesome.
the least we could do is return the favor, right? Yeah.
So check out that one time I was abducted by aliens.
Yep.
It's on iTunes and Spotify and
with Bree and Jamie.
Yeah.
And they are two sides of the coin.
They are two sides of the coin, and so are we now.
And so are we.
It's four sides of the coin.
Yes, we're a four-sided coin.
Yeah.
That's a six-sided coin.
Oh.
That's a dice.
Oh.
And we are six sides of the dice.
Six sides of the dice.
Yeah. All right, man.
Yeah.
So, dude, we're back. This is kind of like our first formal episode again from getting back from California, which was amazing.
So awesome. Yeah. Lorian, thank you so much for inviting us to be there. Like, it was freaking awesome. Some of the best interviews I've had, some of the best speakers that I've listened to. Mind blown every single day.
Yes.
So awesome.
Absolutely,
It did not let me down, like, as far as expectations went.
Right.
You know?
What about the guy that blew the horn on everybody's balls?
So if anybody, or for those of you that don't know or didn't see any of the videos from UFOCon, we're sitting at this booth in this kind of gallery area where all the booth people are, or whatever. And there's this gentleman, nice guy,
super nice
guy.
Dude was cool,
but he was doing like sound healing, and every time we tried to start recording, he would have a customer come up. And he would, like, he had this, remember we saw him, like, bring out those huge horns? Like, we didn't know what they were.
It was like the one from the Ricola commercials. They're like, Ricola. It's like,
so they're like 8 foot tall, like, metal horns. And, yeah, these people would just, like, sit on this table and then right in between their legs, just wah. And we were trying to like have this interview, and this dude's in the background like shaking bells and like
ching 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 ching.
God, dude. Yeah.
Oh man, sound healing the balls.
Yeah. Well, it fucking made me sick. I know that.
That was weird.
That weird frequency that he was playing.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy, man. That was pretty crazy. But yeah, man. I mean, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was
sick.
Know
what I'm saying?
Yeah. It was a fun time.
We got to hang out with Eric Mitchell. We helped him out a little bit with his speech and stuff like that. And definitely check out Eric Mitchell and his story. It's incredible. Unfortunately, we didn't get a whole lot of an interview with him, but we're definitely going to be having him on the show. We'll reach out to him here pretty soon. But man, that was cool. Shout out to Dave Scott, man. Thanks for being cool and hanging out with us and just being an awesome dude, man. That was a good time.
Yeah.
That was a good time. It was cool getting to hang out with him, because he does the radio program and stuff, and it was just cool to kind of shoot the shit with somebody else who does this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Which was really, really neat. Much more legit. I might add.
His radio show versus ours? Oh, yeah, for sure.
So if you haven't heard of Dave Scott, go check out Spaced Out Radio.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. Also, if you haven't checked out UFO Garage Podcast, welcome.
Oh, that's us.
Yeah, that's us, dude.
Yeah, so, thanks for listening, you guys.
Yeah, man. It was good stuff. We had a really, really good time.
Yeah.
So now I guess we're going to... tonight on the show, we've got Mr. Olav Phillips.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. So he's a writer and a publisher. He works for Paranoia Magazine. There's also Paranoia TV. You can catch it on like Roku and stuff like that. He's archived like a whole bunch of stuff. He's done some work with Clyde Lewis. I want to talk to him a little bit about that. Like, is he still doing it?
Yeah.
I don't know if he's still doing it or if he just used to do it or whatever. But he's kind of like a behind the scenes hero, man. Like, he's done a lot of cool stuff.
Researching, I mean, the guy is a genius.
Yeah.
Just the way he talks and the amount of detail that he goes in with his research is freaking awesome. I always wonder, like, these, like, people like us that have podcasts, like, it's really hard to do both, like talk about your research and do the research. Like he does both really well. So it's interesting.
Yeah, he's a great writer. So I'm ready to pick his brain tonight. Probably get into some secret space program stuff, some legit secret space program stuff,
and maybe some Betty and Barney Hill, the truth behind Betty and Barney Hill story.
Yeah, he was talking about something pretty interesting with that. So that's gonna be pretty exciting, man. I feel like we kind of had like a bad taste left in our mouth when it came to the secret space program because we just didn't know like what to say. Like, how do we know now? Like, we're so like lost like in this whole thing that we kind of strayed away from it. So I'm glad he's gonna be on tonight. And maybe he can set some shit straight for us.
Right. I mean, I knew that speaking with Lorian and Melinda, they had said that, oh yeah, so and so stole a lot of his content from these people. So I mean, I always thought, it doesn't mean that there's no secret space program.
Right, it exists.
So now it's really cool to like, okay, well, all that excitement I had behind this story, there's actually someone that can back it up with documentation. So,
definitely.
Yeah.
So, that's going to be pretty cool, man. But, so Ben and Joe, and we're two sides of the coin.
Six sides of the coin.
Six sides of the dice.
Six sides.
And so now we're gonna get into our Facebook stuff, man. You guys have been busy posting while we've been I wouldn't say relaxing, because we definitely been pretty busy getting all this stuff put together and whatnot.
I've been relaxing.
He's been
lots of naps.
He's been lots of naps, dude. I mean, I it's been ridiculous.
Hey, I'm a nap guy. I'm a nap guy.
I'm a nap guy.
I don't know. I don't know.
All right, man. Well, let's get into this before Olaf. Yeah. It's time to call Olaf. We got about 30 minutes.
20 minutes. So we might have to speed through this.
Okay. So
we're gonna go through this the Facebook group feed. A lot of our people that listen to the show are a part of the UFO Garage Podcast Facebook group page. So we like to go through this. If you guys are new to the show, we like to go through this and talk about some stuff that people have posted. So
yeah, dude.
Yeah.
So the first one, Joseph, thank you for posting. Round Earth skeptic, Mad Mike Hughes dies in California rocket crash. So
I thought that dude had already died.
I did too. I was like, dude, he's because hadn't he? Like,
I hate to laugh about it.
I know he's launched himself a few times now, hasn't he?
But dude, yes, he has. But also, when I clicked on that video, I didn't know I was gonna watch a man die.
Oh, dude,
like if you click on that video, you watch someone die.
It's
like
crazy.
His parachute doesn't shoot out. Like it doesn't shoot.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's pretty messed up. Yeah. So I guess in the end, the only thing flat was him.
Oh no!
Sorry, is it too soon? I didn't know. I mean,
oh my god.
I mean,
it's not too soon.
It's not too soon.
It's come full circle.
But I mean, I guess it's kind of what you get, right?
It's a very rounded statement,
right? Yeah. Oh, I saw what you did there.
I didn't know. I don't know.
He was like, I'm gonna go up here and prove the Earth is flat.
Yeah.
Could you imagine though, dude? Like if you made it high enough, he was like, shit, it's totally round, and then he hits the ground. That's gotta suck.
Yeah, dude.
Or it was totally like total validation for his life. He was like, I know now.
Yeah, I know. It's flat. What if he did go up and he was still convinced that it's flat?
He took a picture of it and it was flat, and then like we just never saw it because it crashed.
Oh shit! So he got sabotaged by the government,
by round earthers,
so that the truth wouldn't get out there. And the Earth is actually.
I don't think so.
Oh my god!
I don't think so, man. All right, man. Next,
Gary.
Yeah, Gary Voorhees. Our man Gary, he's got his own YouTube channel now. So go and check him out, support him, subscribe, give him likes, give him love. Dude, he's almost got more subscribers than us.
Of course. I mean, the guy's awesome.
Of course
that makes sense. I mean, our show isn't that big. Yeah. It's just Gary Voorhees, GaryVoorhees. It's on YouTube, so that's pretty sick.
Yep. And Gary, man, thanks for the plug, dude. We appreciate it, man.
Yeah, that
thanks
was
for
awesome.
the shout out. That was a very accurate description of the show.
Right. Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah. You don't want to listen to it at work, this show, because we're going to tell a lot of dick jokes and
without headphones.
Without headphones. Yeah.
He was like, it's one of my favorite shows. It gets me through my day. It keeps it to the lighter side of this topic.
Yeah.
You might not want to listen to it out loud at work.
Yeah.
It's not very not headphone friendly.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, what can I say?
I mean,
You
can tell a dick joke.
So two dicks walk into a bar.
Oh shit!
No, I don't have anything.
Me either.
Oh man.
All right, so check this out. Next to the Cain and Abel's, by the way, that sounds.
Cain and Abel's.
Wait,
that's Cane's.
Oh, Cane's.
That's Cane's fried chicken.
I always mix those up because Cain and Abel's was this restaurant on.
It's in the Bible.
That too, but there was also a restaurant.
It's on King James Street
on West Campus. Oh shit! You mean like the King James Bible?
Yeah.
Oh damn.
Yes.
Okay, so Joseph, you posted about this. Come on, guys, it's flares. I love that. Well, you said the joys of living in by Fort Hood, which I used to live by Fort Hood, and I've never seen anything like this. But I've seen flares, not at Fort Hood, but other places. Mm-hmm. And so breaking this image down. You can see a smoke trail. There are orangish whitish orbs.
Yep.
But there's a smoke trail. There's an obvious trail of where these things came from. They're smoke. I don't know what else. The smoke and the
lights and the smoke and lights and there's air.
So, yeah, those are flares.
Absolutely flares. Yeah.
Okay.
I used to live on Fort Hood too.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna keep going.
I used to live there too.
But yeah, like everybody was freaking out on people were calling the police and the news.
They're like, oh my God.
Posting on Facebook, everybody was freaking out. And I mean, people that are kind of used to seeing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think we were all thinking the same thing.
I mean, honestly, if you live on one of the largest military bases in the world, you're probably going to see flares every now and then.
Yeah.
You're going to hear bombs. You're going to
Right.
hear all kinds of stuff.
Right. So my sighting story by Fort Hood, that was not what I saw, by the way. These lights stayed in the sky. They were much larger than that. There was no smoke cloud. It just hovered for about 15 minutes. Much larger, way different. So that's not what I saw.
Flares are totally different.
Yeah.
What's
next?
Dan. Yeah, Deep Prasad, a.k.a.
dude.
the Quantum Elon Musk.
Yes.
Getting interviewed by George Knapp about his abduction experience. Super cool dude. We agree, Dan. I really would like to try and get him on the show sometime. It might be a little difficult because we might be a little too smart for Deep.
Right. Because we're doctors and scientists.
We're doctors and scientists, and Deep, he's just a quantum guy. I mean, he just deals in the quantum world.
Right.
He probably doesn't know a lot of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Not as much as
we do. I mean, right.
So,
but but I'd love to have him on, see if he can keep up with us.
I would be curious as well because sometimes I need to dumb things down for other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God, that dude would run circles around us.
Oh, I know, dude.
He would probably stop the interview you guys are fucking retarded.
He's like one brain cell is smarter than both of our full brains put together. He's gonna be like, hey, and we're gonna be like, whoa, what did he say? What does that mean, Deep?
Are you speaking Spanish?
Are you speaking Spanish right now?
Yeah, but that interview with him and talking about his experience is really awesome. He's a smart guy. What were you saying? He has his own company and he's working with.
Yeah, I mean, he was just talking about nanotechnology, and there was an interview that I was watching where he was talking about how we could turn future technology, and make it make it work with things around us, and how basically he could integrate this nanotech into trees, and how trees could act as cell phone towers, or could produce electricity. But they're still trees. That's what they're just natural trees, just integrated with this technology. It was pretty crazy, man. So
imagine if you could go into the forest and just plug your phone into a tree.
Dude, how
or like
crazy.
like I don't get very good cell reception here, but the Wi-Fi is great.
Yeah.
You know, like the trees or Wi-Fi.
Yeah. That would be pretty awesome.
I don't know. I think that would like take the experience out of nature for me. But I mean, for some people, it might make camping a little bit more tolerable. I don't know.
It might, yeah.
I wonder what the the use of that would be. Would it be like the trees would make energy because they're connected to I don't know. To
I have
electrodes?
no idea.
Anyway, either way, it's fucking cool.
That just goes to prove our point that we're pretty smart, right?
Yeah. I feel like I'm bumbling through all my thoughts today.
So like, what if there's like this stuff and the tree does the thing and your phone and like there's people and I just want some ice cream. Hey, can I have some ice cream too?
Can I have a cone? Hey, can I have a cone?
2 scoops, please.
2 scoops.
Dude, hey, are you a waffle cone guy or are you a sugar cone guy?
Bro. Waffle cone.
Waffle cone, yeah. Because you can fit more ice cream in it.
Yeah.
I don't understand the sugar cone people.
Well, okay. The sugar cone. Welcome to the sugar cone people. So, you know what I really do like about sugar cones? That the last bite when there's all this ice cream at the bottom.
Yeah.
And then that's that last bite. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, totally. I get that, but
it's
I feel
better
like,
than the waffle cone last bite.
Is it?
To me, it is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, they both kind of have the same experience, but the waffle cone's a little harder, a little more crunchy. Okay, this is fucking stupid. All right, let's move on. Next post by Dan. This is really cool. So his post is, I was reading The Enchanted Egg, written in 1956. So he's reading it to his kid, and on one of the pages it says, okay, let's click on it here. Come on, internet. Come on.
What was that? It like turned into a giant mouse. Now the hand is bigger.
What? This is weird. Here we go.
Oh.
So one of the pages says, landing in the middle of his prized tulips, and in quotes, is it a flying saucer? End quotes. He shouted. End quotes, certainly not. Said Mrs. Robin, it's an enchanted egg. But dude,
whoa.
Flying saucer in a children's book?
Yeah.
Like, look at that egg. Like, it looks kind of like a Chinese depiction of a UFO.
Of like an egg. It looks like a Chinese egg.
Oh wait, I haven't thought about that. Oh, dude. Also, they're elves, dude.
And his name is Dinky. How funny. Oh, how exciting! Cried Dinky.
Oh, Dinky.
Oh man.
Put your egg aside, Dinky.
I'm gonna have to order that on Amazon now.
That's pretty sick.
I wonder if Miles has this book in his archives.
Oh, if he doesn't, he should.
Yeah, it says flying saucer in the book.
Yeah,
we should ask him.
he should have it.
Hey, do you have the enchanted egg? He'd be like, what? No. He'd be like, okay, read page. Okay, it's 8 pages. Read page 4.
You're gonna want to see this. It's the page right after the cute little duckling.
It's groundbreaking. Yeah. It's so awesome. Oh yeah, Paul Hynek.
Oh yeah, the little sticker, that was cool. So we got to meet and hang out with Paul Hynek a bunch last weekend.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
So, yeah, I love the guy. I mean, he gave us so much shit.
He did.
It was like an old friend.
So we had this thing where like we were kind of nervous to like talk to him, right? Because like we didn't know like what to say. Really, we were like, you know.
Yeah,
I mean,
what do you say?
We just didn't know like how to start the topic. Like, you know, like, are we talking about Paul, or are we talking about your dad, or like do we talk about both? Or
also,
like,
he's just kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, he's a really, but he was a really cool dude.
Super cool guy.
And so finally we talked to him during the VIP where you get to meet everybody, you know, that whole little session that evening. And we were like, Paul, we were like, hey man, it was like, you know, he was asking like why how come he hasn't gotten interviewed yet? And we were like, and we were like, Well, you know how like in high school where like, you know, like you're kind of like the nerdy guy, but then like you see like the super hot chick in high school, like you're like kind of intimidated to talk to them because you don't know what to say. He's like, oh, so I'm a woman. And we're like, no, you're not a woman. Wait. He was like, you guys are rat bastards. Yeah. And then he went over and talked to Jocelyn, right? And then he was talking to Jocelyn, and she was like, have you met Ben and Joe yet from the UFO Garage? And he's like, oh yeah. I've met them. I'm still waiting to be on the show. And so I gave him this sticker, right? And he was like, thanks. He threw it on the floor and walked away. And he turned around and he started laughing. He took it. But yeah.
So he secretly really hates us.
Secretly.
Probably. So we're going to have Paul Hynek on the show soon.
Hopefully.
Either way.
Hopefully. I wonder if we should send the email out and be like, your favorite rat bastards.
Yeah. We
Ben
should.
and Joe.
Hell yeah. That's pretty funny. The little meme.
You know, on that picture though, also I was like, oh, he gave our sticker back. But then I was like, oh, but he signed it.
Right.
That's cool.
That's way cooler.
Yeah.
So I guess the next really interesting post, Dan posted again.
Dan, you're on fire, bro.
Yeah, on fire. Alien Vrillion Interception 1977. I had seen this before, but it's been a while. And man, I mean, we listened to a little bit of it. But it's the creepiest looking thing. It looks recently edited though, but it says that it was made in 1977. The cut in between the game show or whatever this is, and to this like static or whatever, the transition is like this modern kind of movie style VHS glitch kind of thing.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh well, that's just edited, you know.
Like maybe it was like a disgruntled employee.
Yeah.
Who just knew how to operate the equipment at the time.
And he's on like a little microphone, like recording all this.
I'm brilliant.
But it's a really creepy thing. If you guys haven't seen it, y'all should watch it.
It's pretty awesome.
I mean, it's kind of like talking about a lot of the things that abductees say that they experience is like this overwhelming, hey guys, get your shit together.
Yeah.
Y'all are messing the planet up. So... anyway, I won't explain the whole thing. Y'all want to check it out. All right, what's the next one, dude?
UFO at Space Station, 22 minutes.
I've been seeing a lot of these, dude.
I have too.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of these. Like the space station stuff. And a lot of them, okay, what's the difference between space junk and a UFO? It's like under intelligent control, right? And it's just the shape, right?
Yeah.
So you have to see the object pretty clearly to see the shape of what this thing is. If it's off in the distance and it's blurry and it just goes by the screen really fast in one trajectory, it's probably space debris.
It could be space
or just it might be just shit. Like poop.
Oh yeah?
Like poop.
Like space poop?
Space poop.
Bro. Can you imagine how much space poop is up there? Well, no, because I think space poop would eventually like go into like retrograde and like burn up in the atmosphere, right?
You think? I mean, what if it's a really like a fibrous substance?
I think well, because I mean, I think they have to. I think they're still too close to the Earth for anything to like just float out.
How come
it would have to like be acted upon by something else to like float out of orbit?
Well, then how come there's so much space debris flying around and it doesn't go into retrograde?
I mean, I think it does eventually,
and it comes
just
back down to
takes
Earth.
a long time.
Dude, what if a lot of the shooting stars that we see is actually just
it probably is
debris?
It probably is debris
falling towards the center of the Earth.
Yeah.
And space poop.
Yeah, because I know like even satellites every now and then they have to like nudge them.
Yeah.
Because they keep getting closer to Earth, so they have to nudge them every now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
That was good.
That was
really good.
Have I told you?
That was impressive.
Have I told you the idea that the space program, the Trump space program should have the suits that they're coming out with.
Yeah.
They should have
your camo.
They should have like
hiding from space trees.
But they have like stars on them. Like, you can't say. Oh,
Can't see me.
come see it. But they should have holes. Okay, this is another poop joke, but they should have holes at the rear because, dude, what if you get thrown out in space and you're out of trajectory air? What are you gonna do? You're gonna use your body, man. Out just a one way valve, and go this way. You know what I mean? It might save your life.
Just very slowly.
It's like floating across the screen.
Oh man!
All right,
that would be crazy. Because I mean, imagine like if something happens and like you start tumbling and like you just tumble into space, like there's nothing to stop you from tumbling.
Yeah,
like you're just gonna keep going.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, would you just?
You can't. You got a helmet.
Oh, that's
on.
right.
Really?
Oh, it's so foggy now.
Your helmet. Yeah, bro. Sucks so bad.
If you're just floating out in space and you have little like air left and you know that you're screwed, that would suck, dude. We should make a movie about that.
Would you just take your helmet off?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, you're like,
fuck it. Probably. I mean, yeah. You're not gonna live anyway.
I'd
rather get it over with.
I would Hulk Hogan rip open my spacesuit. Be like,
hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Show that taco meat off, dude.
Yeah, dude. Totally. Totally.
Okay, what's next? Found a rare carbon. Gary posted, found a rare carbon dioxide breathing alien. It's a photo of this little grass blade with it was like a caterpillar is eating through the side of it, and it like makes little eyes. That's really funny. That's fucking awesome. Okay, some more on this Colleen.
The flares.
The flares.
Uh-huh.
Super. Man, yeah.
Definitely flares.
Definitely flares. That's cool. That's our shout out from Gary. Oh, this is a cool shirt. The UFO. Well, did they write?
I think UFO? He wrote that in there.
Sonny's post on the UFO garage. Where manly men do manly things. Hell yeah, brother. We should make a shirt like that. Latest UFO sightings. Did you get a chance to see that one?
Oh yeah, Creates from El Paso.
Yeah.
Yep. And then there's like a plane that flies by it, like a jet.
Oh shit!
It's pretty cool.
Should we watch it real quick?
It's 4 minutes and 36 seconds long.
Okay, cool. Well then, people will know about it. Then y'all can go watch it.
Yeah, definitely go check it out.
Yeah,
his channel's pretty interesting.
If you want to.
So,
hell yeah. So Gary's announcing the UAPX going to launch. That's pretty cool. Archive initiative. So archives, I love it, man. I love the initiative to archive things. Everything's just all in your brain or like in a Google Doc somewhere.
Right.
It'd be good to have a physical thing. Like it was your idea for the museum. The far in the future museum and archive. Man, I love that idea.
Hell yeah, I think it'd be a great idea.
Yeah. I didn't click on this.
I didn't get to check on that one either yet.
Yeah.
Nope,
sorry,
not
Jordan.
yet. We'll get to it.
Sorry, Sharshan. Oh, this one's great. This next post.
Meat sex. Meat sex. Blood.
Oh my god.
Justin's episode
so William posted that about that song. He said after listening to your episode with Justin and that song we posted, Justin's episode, man, it's one of my favorites so far.
Yeah, it was definitely a good one.
It's like he was really well read and spoke really well about his ideas and
it was just nice. It was like a fresh perspective on the whole thing. Because he's right. Like, most of this stuff is like, what is it? And, it's light beings. Or, like, or like, this is cool. And stuff like that, which is exactly how we are. And he was like, no.
Yeah.
You guys are dumb.
Yeah.
It's not cool. They
It's
will
not.
enslave you.
Fucking dangerous.
Right? And it's dangerous. And you don't want to mess with them.
Yeah.
So that was cool. If you didn't get to check out Justin's interview, check out Justin's interview.
Yeah, it's great. It's a perfect timing. It's not long enough, but it's a great interview. I'd like to have a longer format. which he suggested we talk to his colleague. But man, I'd love to hear more about the new message. I want to know more about that.
The new message.
The new massage. Oh, there's a photo with George Norrie. What's up, dude?
George?
I like your thing about the mustache contest. Yeah, he definitely won.
Yeah. I think it's killer, bro.
We'll skip over my post. I guess we won't. But yeah, this guy, Bright Insight. What's his name? Jimmy. Yeah, if you guys follow Jimmy on YouTube, Bright Insight, he just posted a new video that's really awesome. It's kind of connecting the ancient civilizations to like one connection. It's pretty cool.
Jimmy was off the hook.
Oh,
he was off the hook, man.
Hell yeah, bro.
Wasn't that man? What was the name of that movie? Was it Grind? I think that movie Grind, and it had Tom Green in it. He was on this, and he was the owner of the skate shop.
Right.
And they were like, "You guys missed Jimmy. Jimmy was here." They were like, "Ooh, Jimmy was here," and he was like, "Yeah." Jimmy was like off the hook.
I love Tom Green, dude. Oh my god.
Dude, I want to try the Tom Green beer.
Oh shit.
Hey, if any of you guys out there have had the Tom Green beer, let me know, because it doesn't get distributed.
Oh really?
Down here, yeah.
So you gotta go somewhere else and buy it.
Yeah.
Fucking commies.
This was ridiculous. This was hilarious.
The next post,
Nicholas,
dude. So it's all the Odd Future shows of what's the actual show called with Action Bronson?
I have no idea, man.
What's Action Bronson watching Ancient Aliens with Tyler the Creator and a bunch of his friends? Like it's just smoking weed.
It was like the first 30 seconds is about the show, and then the rest of it they're jumping on trampolines and shit, getting their nails done and stuff. It was hilarious. We laughed. That's great thing.
All right, perfect timing, because I think we need a little, like maybe 10 minutes before we have
little prep
Olav
time
on. Yeah,
okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you guys have just skipped through all of that intro stuff to right here, get ready to have Olav on. We'll be right back.
Yeah, we'll be right back after these messages. All right, Olaf Phillips is with us, ladies and gentlemen. Olaf, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
We're doing really, really good, man. We're super excited to have you on the show. We met at UFO Con. Dave actually introduced us, and it's crazy because he didn't really give us too much of a backstory on you, man.
Okay.
and then after we met, we started kind of looking into you, and dude, you do a lot of stuff, man. I'm extremely impressed. You're kind of like a behind the scenes hero kind of a guy, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm not a limelight speak at conferences kind of person.
Yes, man. Yes. But yeah, man, I mean, so if you don't mind, just for some of the people who may not know who you are, kind of like we were,
Sure.
just tell our audience, man, a little bit about yourself, bro.
Well, I'm the publisher and I'm a writer for Paranoia magazine, the oldest still in publication conspiracy alternative news kind of magazines in the United States. I think it was originally founded in like 91. I'm still printing it. I've been on a bunch of different TV shows. I've been on UFO Hunters, Unearthed with Scott Walters, Where on Earth. I was on a show in Italy called Voyager. On RAI2A. I've been on a lot of different podcasts and radio shows. I've been on Ground Zero, been on Coast to Coast, been on, what's that one? The Caravan of Midnight.
Nice,
nice. Dave Show. I've been on all kinds of podcasts.
That's cool,
Fireside
man.
Chats. Yeah.
So dude,
I do a lot of different research. I do research into foreign policy. I do research into UFOs. Exotic aircraft, cryptids. I'm a 4chan, so if it's 4chan, I do it.
Yeah. So, dude, I mean, you're into, a little bit of everything, it sounds like.
Yeah, I get a little bit of 4chan ADD. AD&D. I used to play AD&D. I'm like, no.
That's awesome, man. So, you had mentioned, the Ground Zero stuff. Were you like a producer at some point for Clyde and Ground Zero?
Yeah, I was the executive producer.
That's awesome, man. Do you still work with them at all, or is it?
I do.
You do?
I do.
Awesome, man. I'm a pretty big fan of that show.
Oh yeah. My editor-in-chief is his producer now.
Awesome, man. That's
Ron
really
Patton.
really cool. That's really cool, man. Yeah, dude. So I don't even know where to start because like you're into so much cool stuff. I actually downloaded the Paranoia TV on Roku. I have a Roku, and so I've been
right on.
Yeah, I've been all over that stuff, man.
I'm in some of those.
Yes, I've seen them. Nice. I've seen them. Was the Paranoid Traveler?
Yes, I did the Paranoid Traveler. I have more episodes coming soon. I had to upgrade my computer, so now I can edit about five more that I've done. Yeah. And then I was on some other ones in there too.
That's great, man. That's great. Well, dude, I mean,
I'm curious, Olav, if maybe we could talk a little bit about maybe secret space program stuff, because me and Joe,
sure.
we've talked about a secret space program for a while, and there was some misleading stuff in the beginning of our research, and it kind of all fell apart. But I've always been really excited about the idea, and I've always wanted to talk to somebody that actually has some knowledge and has done their research on the actual, not the possibility, but the actuality of a secret space program. So, man, I'd just love to hear what you got on that whole thing.
Well, the point of view that I came from was that eons ago, more than 20 years ago, I saw a TV show called Alternative 3. Mm-hmm. And this was a TV show originally produced in 1977. It was shown on April 1st. It was supposed to be shown in or do I have that backwards? Yeah, it was supposed to be shown in June, but there were some sort of scheduling conflicts. And so basically it was a kind of docudrama, and you'll recognize some of the actors in it, like Shane Rimmer and others.
Right.
If you watch British science fiction movies, he's all over them. He was in the TV show UFO and all these bad science fiction. I saw like a 20th generation VHS copy. It was awful quality.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Got that nice grain to it.
Oh, it had a terrible, terrible grain. The tracking was completely blown out on it. Tracking, for those of you who remember VHS. Yeah. But I started to come to the opinion of that it could possibly be real because it was very specific in a lot of ways. The show is extremely specific, which these kinds of shows generally aren't. And I thought that was very intriguing. So I left it alone for a while. And then one day I was living in England, and I got this email from this guy. He says, "Oh, I saw you're interested in Alternative 3." And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "I've got a master." And I said, "Well, that's funny because all the masters were destroyed in a fire."
Huh. Interesting.
Right. So how do you have a master? He says, "Don't worry about it. I got it from somebody. Would you like a copy?" I said, "Sure." He said, and so he says, "Okay, I'll send you a copy." So one day I come home from work, and the Royal Mail delivered this big manila envelope with no return address. And I open it up, and there's a DVD inside. I put the DVD in, and boom, there's Alternative 3 off a master, beautiful copy.
Whoa.
So I start watching it again, and it really dawned on me. I'm like, something is telling me that this is real, and if this is real, don't worry, I'll get to what it's about in a minute. But if it's real, then these things they talk about, I should be able to find them. Right?
Right.
So, right. And this is a long time ago. This is probably almost 14 years ago. What the show is about, ostensibly, is about something called a brain drain. Now, in the 70s, this is true. In the 70s, a lot of workers, high-tech workers of the 70s, were leaving England because the pay was poor, and they were going to other places in Europe, like Germany, France, and Scandinavia, because the pay was a lot better. So they were losing a lot of scientists, technicians, that kind of thing. So it's about that. And during the show, they unwittingly stumble upon this vast conspiracy. And basically the conspiracy is this, is that we're all screwed and we leave and go somewhere else. And the idea was to go to the moon, go to Mars by way of the moon. So they came up with 3 alternatives. The first alternative was to try to fix the problem. And to fix the problem, they wanted to fire a nuclear missile high and detonate it at high altitude, and hopefully blow a hole in the atmosphere and vent all the carbon dioxide into space. I know it sounds ridiculous, but they tried it.
They actually did that, didn't they?
Wasn't it over Australia?
No, it was in the South. It was in the South Atlantic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a second. The second idea was to build bunkers. And then the third idea was to leave and go to Mars by way of the moon. So I thought, well, that's interesting. Well, if it's true, then these things should be reproducible, right? Mm-hmm. So the first thing they talked about was that in 1958, I believe, there was a meeting of the American Chemical Society where basically everybody agreed that we're all screwed. So I went back to 1958. I found the meeting of the American Chemical Society. And there was a guy, his name escapes me at the moment, but he did this he was part of an ocean, I want to say it was, what was it? It was part of an oceanographic institute, one of the famous ones. It starts with an S, but I can't remember the moment. And he did this massive study of phytoplankton. And in 1958, he realized and documented the fact that the phytoplankton were not converting carbon dioxide into oxygen fast enough. And the quote that they always throw out about him is that he said that we're undertaking a risky experiment so grand we can't even possibly imagine what the outcome will be. Ooh. And basically he said that that due to over-industrialization that our ecosystem will eventually collapse. This is in 58.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So now fast forward to 2020 and we have climate change, right? I'm sitting here in dark California. It's winter. It's not raining. And I'm probably going into another drought. When I was a kid, right now, it would be storming like crazy. We'd have thunder and lightning, and I haven't even seen any thunder or lightning here in a year.
Wow. That's crazy.
Well, I went through an entire season where there was like 2 days of rain, which is ridiculous. So, we couldn't wash our cars. Everybody's lawns died. We couldn't water our lawns, nothing, right? Yeah. So climate change is real. Whatever you think causes it, good for you, but it does exist.
Right.
So the first alternative was to fire this rocket into high altitude and detonate it. And so I went, I looked, and it turns out not long after that, they had attempted this project called Project Argus. Well, it was Argus Hardtack. Or Hardtack Argus, depending on your choice. And basically what they did is they went down to the South Atlantic with this huge fleet of these super sophisticated ships. And they launched a missile. It's the highest nuclear detonation ever. And they fired a rocket up and boom, set it off. Now, they were trying to test this thing called the Coriolis effect, where this guy had hypothesized that if you detonate a nuclear weapon at high altitude, you can create another ring, like a radiation shell.
Okay.
Right, and it did happen, but it also, it was to fulfill this fantasy of ripping holes in the atmosphere.
Right.
So the second option is to build bunkers and to live underground. Uh-huh. And I don't really need to tell you that we build bunkers. But there's something interesting about that. So the Soviets took this whole thing so seriously, I believe, that they built 2 bunkers. One is called Yamato, and the other is called Kosmatov, and they're in these huge mountains. And basically what they did is they went in and hollowed out the entire mountain. Now, to tell you, in the case of Yamato, the mountain is so huge that it actually has a garrison, or it had a garrison, of Soviet soldiers on the side of the mountain. The garrison held 50,000 people.
Oh, damn.
Huh.
Right. So they hollowed out the entire mountain. There are rail lines that run into the mountain. It was supposedly the home of the dead hand switch, but they had problems, so they went to Kosmatov in the Urals, and they did the same thing again. And then the third option was to go to Mars by way of the moon. And so the way that I usually discuss that is that in 1959, the Army came out with a thing called Project Horizon, which was to basically build.
I've heard that one.
Yeah, pressurized Quonset huts buried in regolith on the moon. Not long after, the Air Force came along with Lunex, which was to have this rocket that would land and become a base. And the Army believed that they could get 178 soldiers on the moon by 1961.
Can I cut in and ask you, so you say go to Mars by way of the moon. Does that mean like doing research first on the moon and then shooting people from the moon to Mars? Or
is it more like a logistics thing?
It's a logistics thing. Yeah. Because at that time, they didn't necessarily have the capability to get all the way, too much food or whatever.
Yeah. So I just want to catch up the audience if people are kind of like curious, and I'm kind of curious. I need to be reminded sometimes, but like kind of breaking it down. So our government or the world government, a lot of governments realized in the 50s, right, that shit was going bad in our environment. So they came up with these contingency plans, and there's 3 options. And now you're kind of going, and you found all of this proof and this evidence of government like documents documenting all of these projects, and there's proof of this stuff.
Right. Yeah, and it gets worse. So so two interesting things happened to me in the process of the research. One is that I was on ground zero, and this guy called in, and I'm talking about all this stuff, and this guy calls in about 5 minutes before the show ends. And he calls in, he said he's calling in from the Pacific Northwest. That's all he would say. And he said his name was Bob. And he said that he worked for a large defense contractor, right, in the Pacific Northwest.
Right.
And he said that he worked on a constellation of satellites, because one of the things I talk about is Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll get to why that's important in a minute.
The real Star Wars.
The real Star Wars. And he said that not only was Star Wars real, but he explained how it worked. And then he said it was to shoot at stuff coming toward us. Oh. Not to shoot stuff down, but to shoot stuff up, so to speak. And then he hung up.
Huh. What?
The second guy, he had an uncle that worked at a huge he was an accountant at a huge metal fabrication company. And he said that the guy was like a comptroller, and he was auditing the books you have to do yearly, and he found these like crazy purchases from the military for just insane amounts of sheet metal.
Huh.
And so he went to his boss, and the billing was kind of screwy, and so he went to the boss, and the boss like, drop it, and he wouldn't drop it. He kept pushing, and he figured out eventually that the sheet metal was for some weird project. And then they fired him.
Oh no!
Interesting. Was it like, what? Does it matter what kind of metal it was, or it just?
I don't know what kind of metal it was.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious.
but basically, what he discovered is it was to build those Quonset huts on the moon.
Whoa!
Yeah,
wow.
Right. And then the other thing that I talk about is that there's a specific place. So, you can watch all kinds of videos and whatever and see all kinds of, well, these are crystal spires and here's pyramids and there's a face and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Right. I've never seen one that's so compelling that you look at it and you're like, yes.
Yeah.
Except for one. So I searched all over the place, and I found this building. And it's basically built into the side of a canyon, and it's a square. It's a square building
on the moon.
And it has it on Mars, and it has a dome. Yeah, and it has a dome, and the dome is actually reflecting the sunlight, so you can clearly see it's a dome. Whoa. So the trick I usually play on people is I say, okay, where is this? The most common answer I get is that it's in Malibu.
They're like, man, you're a little far off.
I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, no, it's on Mars.
Wow.
So and you can get into why Gary McKinnon makes sense, and a lot of other things.
Uh-huh.
But when you get into the actual mechanics of the secret space program, right? I like to go back to the Germans. Right.
Yeah, I think that's kind of synonymous. I think with a lot of the stories, like it started with the Germans, right? Like kind of.
Right. So the guy, okay, so the first thing that's very interesting is that one of the things that is commonly talked about is the bell, der Glocke, right?
Right.
It was the hinge, tethered to the hinge, and yada yada yada, and that's all true. But what's even more interesting is that a buddy of mine named Walter Bosley actually found, he's really into the Sonora Aero Club and Aeros and all that, mysterious airships of 1897 and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And there's this guy named Delshow, and Delshow had made these crazy montages of, and collages of all the airships, and they were like schematics, but presented in an artistic way. And on one of them, Walter actually found the bell, and it has the counter-rotating arrows and the whole thing. It's the bell.
Oh, cool.
And this is from the late 1800s.
Dang.
So if you fast forward to the Germans, right? Oh well, so the Sonora Aero Club, they competed with this group called NIMSA. And NIMSA was a group from Europe, and it's commonly believed they're from Germany. Well, it turns out they're actually from Prussia, and this is important, about to be very important. So the guy that actually ran the secret weapons program for the Germans was a guy named Hans Kammler. I'm sure you've heard of Hans Kammler.
Yeah.
But there's some things that you need to know about Hans Kammler. Number one, he was an engineer. He had a PhD in civil engineering, and he actually designed the concentration camp system.
Oh.
Yeah, he's a bad dude.
He's a bad guy.
He's a very bad guy.
Yeah.
But he was also in charge of Peenemünde, where they were doing the rocket experiments and firing the V1s and the V2s.
Okay.
Yeah, he actually took away the weapons program from Albert Speer and from Goering. So Goering had it taken away by Speer, and then Kammler took it away from Speer. So he's a very well-connected dude. He was actually assigned the weapons program by what's his name? The head of the SS. His name escapes me. Himmler. And it was a handwritten note basically assigning him to take over the weapons program. So when you look at this, right, you've got this guy Kammler, extremely well educated. He's an engineer, albeit a civil engineer, and he's running this crazy program, right? And the story of the bell actually comes from a guy named Jacob Sporenberg, and Sporenberg was in the SS. And the SS had different groups, right? So there was kind of the military part of the SS.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There was the police part of the SS, which had policemen and the Gestapo.
Right.
And then, you had the Ahnenerbe, which is a whole topic in and of itself. And then, you had the army part. Well, and
then they had the art people, right? That went around and stole a bunch of art, right?
Yeah, that's part of the Ahnenerbe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and they didn't steal art. That was left to other people. Well, they did steal some art, but the Ahnenerbe is actually, they did all the crazy research. They were the ones with the Hexen group the witch group.
Yeah.
Okay.
They actually had witches. Yeah.
So
anyway.
Sorry. I don't want to get you off track.
Okay. So Sporenberg was in the police part of it, and he had heard rumors about this place called Derisi, the Giant, which is this huge complex. People think it's one thing. It was actually a monstrous complex of various things, and that they were doing this crazy research. So he gets picked up by the Poles, and the Poles are like, dude, you're going to die, right? We're going to hang you because you're a bastard and you were in the SS.
Yeah.
And he's like, no. Yeah, he's like, no, don't kill me. I got this crazy story. So he tells this crazy story, right? And then they execute him anyway. So years later, this guy, Witowski, hears from a friend of his in Polish intelligence that they have a crazy story in their archives. And he gives it to Witowski, and Witowski, who was into the Wunderwaffe and the super weapons.
Yeah.
Right, the 262, the 163, all these crazy aircraft and guided missiles and all this crazy stuff they were building.
Yeah.
And so it gets to Witowski. Witowski writes about it. Then it gets picked up by Nick Cook in The Hunt for Zero Point. And then it kind of proliferates. You've got Joseph Farrell, who's written some amazing books on it, and everybody's talking about it now, right? But at the end of the day, it comes from this one guy, Jacob Sporenberg. Well, what Sporenberg said is that they were running these crazy tests, and they had this weird engine thing that they had tethered to this thing they called the hinge, and it was anti-gravity. So there's a very funny thing. Oh, and it would kill plants, and technicians who got too close to it would die,
Oh, that sucks.
et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So
can I ask you really quick? I don't mean to interrupt, but
Sure.
so
that's fine.
you mentioned that there was like schematics in the 1800s about this De Glock, right? And then
yeah,
now we're hearing about it in maybe late 30s, mid 30s, talking about this person saying, yeah, no, it was a real thing.
in the 40s. Yeah.
40s.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that part. So one of the interesting things about Kamler, aside from his education and his background, et cetera, is that Kamler was actually Prussian. And one of the very interesting things about Kamler is that he was reported on multiple times within the SS that during his reviews, because it's a job, right? You may be building gas chambers, but apparently you get job reviews.
Oh my god!
I think it's crazy.
Jeez.
Yeah,
It's very good.
Kind of disgusting.
Yeah.
But one thing that was said about him is that although he was a good SS officer, right, and he did everything that he was supposed to do to the letter, it always seemed like he was beholden to someone else.
Ooh.
That he wasn't a fanatic. He was a very calculated guy, and his fanaticism was not to Nazism. It was actually just something else. And it's my belief that his fanaticism was actually to whatever NIMSA became.
The Vril, maybe the Vril Society, right?
Well, I think it was NIMSA, and I think NIMSA actually infiltrated the Vril Society, the SS, and all these other groups, the Theosophy groups, and everything else.
Yeah.
So at the end of the war, a very interesting thing happened. So number one, so the Soviets are trying to get there, right? And they want the Soviets under Korolev rounded up all the technicians, and the Americans rounded up all the scientists. So they went to try to get there to get the scientists of this crazy project because they had heard about it from other people, and they're gone. And so hold on a second. Yeah. So they had disappeared, and then Kamler himself has reported that Kamler died something like 5 times.
Huh.
But
Nice.
nobody ever found the body.
He got suicided. Was it the Clintons or?
No.
Damn, died 5 times. That's crazy.
He died 5 times. He died on the side of the road after being strafed by an aircraft. He died in a firefight. He blew his brains out. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different options of how this dude died, but nobody ever found him.
Nobody found the body. How insane.
Wow.
Now, there is a book that claims that he eventually came to the United States. I don't know about that. But I do know about this. Everything that they were working on, which is documented, is gone. It just vanished into thin air.
Whoa.
Now, what is very interesting, the number of the aircraft escapes me right now, but it's a Junkers. They originally designed it as the America bomber. It was designed to fly from Germany to America to drop a nuclear bomb on New York.
Oh, damn.
They never got that far. But
luckily.
Yeah.
Yeah, luckily, but it's ginormous. It's this huge like 8-engine transport. And at the end of the war, Kamler had control of the only 4 of them that existed on the face of the earth, and like 3 of them vanished. I think 3 out of 4 vanished.
Wow.
Now, what's interesting about that thing is that the range. So if you draw a straight line from Derisi, you could probably get to somewhere in Africa on 1 tank of gas. Okay. And then from Africa, you could easily fly to the pole, to the South Pole.
Oh.
Right.
South Pole.
But there's a hitch. So this aircraft, there's a smaller one that has like 6 engines, and they actually tested a mid-air refueling of the 8 engine by the 6 engine with a huge fuel bladder in the back. So it's a transport. It had this huge fuel bladder. They actually tested mid-air refueling that thing over the North Atlantic. So what I would suggest to you is that they mid-air refueled that thing, and it kept right on going. And I think that Kamler packed up all the scientists, shot a bunch of the technicians and slave labor, and then took off and maybe went to base 211. And I talked to Dr. Richard Allen Miller, And he said that he's been to 211, and then when you go inside 211, that it's obvious that there was some sort of massive firefight in there.
Whoa.
It's all blown to hell, and there's bullet holes everywhere, and whatever.
Wow. And 211 is the South Pole, right? It's in Antarctica.
Yeah, it's in New Schwabenland.
Oh.
That's what they called it.
Ooh.
I like that name.
But what comes away from that is that that the Allies and the Soviets at the time probably had some documentation on what they were doing. And one of the reasons I believe this is because if you look at the Kecksburg incident, the Kecksburg UFO is a dead ringer for the bell. And if you look at the Kecksburg UFO, they said it had these hieroglyphics on it. Well, the Germans had a preoccupation with Norse and Germanic mythology. It's not beyond the pale that they actually carved runes into it, because the SS, who was working on this project, they were total pagans, and they had this whole obsession with Germanic and Norse mythology. So they probably would have carved runes into the side of it.
Huh.
So it might have been either a German UFO, right, a Hannibal, or it could have been an American version. Now, if you fast forward to the 60s, okay, one of the very interesting things about this whole thing is that Otto, what's his name? I just drove a long way.
No worries,
Otto Bender wrote an article in Saga, which was a men's magazine, about UFOs. And one of the things that he wrote about was the iconography on the UFOs. The UFOs have symbols on them, right?
Yeah.
And one of the very, aside from the other ones, which I chart out in the book I wrote, one of the other interesting things about it is that he said that there were a large number of them that when they were seen, they would say like US and then a 4-digit code, or UN and a 4-digit code, SV 4-digit code.
Yeah, right.
No alien in their right mind is going to write in using a Roman alphabet, US and then 4 numbers, right? But this also coincides with what Lazar saw at S4, that he said when he went into the sports model that there was like letters on the side of it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, he said it looked like almost a USA kind of sticker or some kind of insignia was slapped on it, right?
Yeah, because as humans, what do?
We brand things.
Put labels. We label stuff. Now, here's the kicker, right? When we're talking about UFOs and the secret space program, and then there's something that'll really blow your mind. But when we're talking about the secret space program, and we're talking about the very beginning of it, one of the most famous UFO experiences ever is Betty and Barney Hill.
Right.
So this one gets me into a bit of trouble, but okay. So the car dies in Betty and Barney Hill. He was African American, she was white. In a place where that was not popular, there was a lot of racial issues. So, and it's during the 50s. So
yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Barney. Yeah, unfortunately. So Barney, who was an Army veteran, carried a Colt 45 in the car. So the car shuts off, the UFO comes down. And so what does Barney do? He's going to protect his wife. So he gets out of the car, he starts shooting at the UFO.
Well, yeah.
Nothing happens, right? What we would all do.
Exactly.
So the ramp comes down, and guess who comes out of that ramp?
Well,
a redheaded Irishman.
Not what you would expect.
With a German Shepherd. Now, there's a reason this is significant. I'll get to it in a moment.
What?
So the redheaded Irishman takes him on a tour of the UFO. Now, if you listen to the original, or if you read the transcript and listen to the original hypnotic regression, he talks about this redheaded Irishman leading them through the UFO and them seeing the occupants. And the way that he described the occupants is basically Nazis. They were in black jumpsuits, silver piping, wore peaked caps. They looked like Panzer crews.
Yeah.
That's kind of how he described them. Now, the reason the redheaded Irishman is significant is that it's a little known fact that during World War II, that the IRA, the Irish Republican Army, who fought the English for years, even now they kind of fight politically, but through Sinn Féin, but back then it was an armed conflict.
Yeah.
They actually sided. And the Nazis trained a bunch of them and supplied them to go attack the British.
Huh.
And what ended up happening is that there was an entire unit of soldiers from Northern Ireland that actually fought in the SS, in the army.
Wow.
So it's not insane that a redheaded Irishman is on board that aircraft, saucer, whatever. Yeah.
Wow. So that just kind of blows the lid off of, one of the most famous UFO stories of all time.
I'll give you something even better. So have you ever heard of the Marjorie Fish star map?
Yes. Yeah. The map that she drew, right?
Right. So if you look at that map, the idea is that in the center is the Earth, and there's all these like conduits that go out from it, Zeta Reticuli, Barnard Star, Proxima Centauri, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So far be it for me to question people's motives, but when I was a younger person than I am today, when I was in college, I studied anthropology. And in anthropology, one of our subdisciplines is linguistic anthropology. Now, when I took linguistic anthropology, my professor was a little dry and boring, but he taught us one thing that I'll remember till the day I die. When you live somewhere, right, and you give somebody instructions or you make maps, that generally the way you orientate your maps or orientate your directions is relative to a large landmass or something culturally significant. In my case, I live near a mountain called Mount Diablo. So if I'm going to give you directions, right, I'm going to say, okay, keep the mountain on the left side, or keep the mountain on the right side if you're going north,
right,
or or turn right at the river, or stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Generally, when you make a map, you put yourself in the middle. So if the Earth is in the middle and it's all in English, why would it A, be in English, and B, why would the Earth be in the center? If I'm an alien from Zeta Reticuli, I'm going to put Zeta Reticuli in the center.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
So that's the kind of proof of the genesis of the secret space program. From there, you see a lot of things about these weird projects that the military had for these exotic aircraft. You can talk about different kinds of engines. For example, there's a thing called an aerospike engine. This thing only really works up above 60,000 feet, right? Yeah, you need to use a normal turbine engine to get it up to around 50,000. Then you engage this thing, and it kind of putts along. And then once you get up to 60, it just goes.
Wow.
And supposedly with an aerospike, you can do like Mach 6, Mach 8.
Damn. Nice. And a human inside the craft, it can stand those.
Yeah.
I guess
it can stand the.
I guess if the acceleration is low enough, you can go that fast.
Mm-hmm.
The acceleration is
slow. You're building up.
Yeah. Wow.
But the other thing about it, right, is that you've got the Lazar talking about the Sportster model, which is basically an offshoot of the original German engineering program. So there's all these different options once you get into the more modern era.
Yeah. So okay, can I kind of regroup? Is it so we're kind of you've just explained like the genesis, as you said just a second ago, of the secret space program, and now we're kind of like, okay, here's all this backstory, and now we're, I don't know, what year are we at? Are we at like in the 90s and like explaining Bob Lazar? Okay, cool. So
80s. If you're talking about Bob Lazar, he came out in 89.
Right.
So,
okay.
Yeah, you'd be talking about.
Yeah. So then, I don't know if you know this through your research, but maybe it's just I'd be curious what your opinion is, or maybe a little bit more. But do you think that Bob Lazar, not knowing, our government spending all this cash trying to learn what this propulsion technology is, do you think it could have been a human-made craft, or do you think it was definitely extraterrestrial?
The jury's still out. So I've met Lazar. He's a very nice guy. I love Bob. He's a great guy.
Yeah. He seems like it would be.
Yeah, he's very quiet, very shy, but until he's blowing stuff up. but this is the way that I would posit it to you. I think Bob Lazar told you exactly what he understood. He told you exactly what he knows. That doesn't mean that what they told him is true. And Lazar even says this, that it being an alien craft and all that crap, that may or may not be true. He has no way of knowing.
Right.
Yeah.
right? So it could be a back-engineered alien craft. It could be a back-engineered, ultra-sophisticated German craft.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it could just be. I mean, one of the examples that Bob Lazar has given is like throw a motorcycle in a couple hundred years ago, or like 500 years ago or something. It doesn't
take a wristwatch back to the Stone Age and we'll see what happens.
It doesn't mean that it's extraterrestrial. It's just like, I don't know. So it could be
exactly.
It could be at that time that there's maybe the scientists that created that, if it even was a U.S. based person, they just maybe they died mysteriously.
German.
So if it was German, and then they said, "Oh, we're just not going to." Yeah. So there's just like, we're not going to share with you how this thing works. So we're trying to figure it out. Doesn't necessarily mean
exactly. And the other thing you have to remember is that if they put it out there, if they tell him it's an alien vehicle, that if he does decide to go public, which he decided to do, then people are going to laugh at him, at least at that time, and say, "Oh, that's ridiculous, Bob.
Right.
What kind of crack are you smoking?"
Dang.
Now not so
much.
That. Right. But, it may have been embedded disinformation. So I do believe that we have these vehicles. I mean, my ex-wife and my oldest son actually saw basically a rectangle fly down. We have a lot of weird stuff that flies in our skies here, but they saw, along with about 5 other people that I know, they saw a rectangle, like a cube, or like a block, with no control surfaces, no wings, no nothing, fly very quietly down my valley.
Wow.
Yeah, in kind of the evening, and I trust them both implicitly, and I know they're not lying, and they both drew the same thing independent of each other, along with 5 other people that I know that saw it as well. Wow. I saw 14 of them with my ex-wife. I saw 14 of them have a dogfight over a town out in a little town called Dixon.
Whoa.
We watched them for over an hour have a dogfight. Then they made triangles and squares and circles and whatever. So these things do exist. It's impossible to know exactly what they are.
Right.
But they do definitely exist.
Dang. So you witnessed these craft change shape from a rectangular prism?
No, they were flying in a perfect square.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Ooh, and in a triangle. Now, what I did see is that 2 of them peeled off, and for a lot of reasons having to do with geology. Dixon, as a town, is a very good place to have radio transmitters, and so actually, the Voice of America, an old American propaganda station that we used to beam stuff out into Asia and into Russia, their primary transmitter for the West Coast is actually in Dixon. Well, there are these 2 radio masts about 15 miles apart, and we watched for probably 45 minutes these 2 crafts go back and forth, doing like wind sprints back and forth between these 2 towers. And in the moonlight, you could actually see them roll over. And when they would roll over and come back, they were triangles. So, I don't know.
Oh
yeah,
that is pretty nuts. It makes me think that we were talking about Bob Lazar and whatever he was looking at. Maybe it could be an extraterrestrial spacecraft.
It's possible.
Or maybe it is just like a craft that was maybe reverse engineered or something from the old school secret space program that they found and they were trying to figure it out. It just kind of makes me wonder, does that, is that how deep, I guess, or compartmentalized maybe these programs are, that the government is studying stuff that certain people already know about? Maybe there's some guy in a room and he's like, I already know what this is, but we're gonna spin.
Explain. I once knew a guy who was a machinist. He worked at a machine shop over in Livermore, and these guys had this phenomenal contract with the Navy, and basically what they did is they built a bolt. That's all they built. It was a bolt, and it had to be custom machined out of titanium. So they would make these bolts. They're very big bolts, but they would custom machine these bolts, and they would just make copious amounts of these bolts. But they didn't know what the bolts were for. The whole contract was to make a bolt. Well, it turns out that the bolts that they were manufacturing were actually used on nuclear reactors and submarines to bolt them into the housing.
Whoa.
But they had no idea. So each part of the nuclear reactor was farmed out to a different group of people.
Ooh.
And only once the thing became declassified did they learn, oh, well, I made a bolt that fit into a nuclear reactor.
Huh.
I mean, yeah, that's how I would do it if I was trying to keep
That's the
something
only
secret.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I wonder,
Need to know.
now that you say that, I wonder how many facilities and manufacturers around the world are manufacturing parts and pieces for secret space program aircraft.
Right.
Who knows?
You know?
And I'll give you another one. So going back to Alternative 3, right? One of the notions of Alternative 3, to actually like figure out what they're flying is incredibly difficult because these things are such black budget operations. And they use, so back in the 80s, there was this big brouhaha that we were paying the Air Force and the Army, $5,000 for a $20 toilet seat. Right?
Yeah.
Well, they do that at that time, they were doing that overbilling because they were taking the rest of the money and shunting it into these compartmentalized programs. So they would overbill for the toilet seat. They take the other, $4,500 and they put it into a program out at Lockheed. Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like the Aurora program or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
well, other industries have done that, like film. They call, I think, I'm going to totally screw this up, but there's a thing that they put on all of the bills, like it's called M99, but no one knows what an M99, but it's actually just clothespins, and they charge like $20 a clothespin so that they could get extra funding. So it's like that same concept.
Same concept. And you have to remember is that these things are so highly compartmentalized that nobody knows what they're working on. And, it's not beyond the pale that Lockheed, who would have been running that operation if it was at S4, Lockheed gave him some sort of, cover story.
Yeah.
Because the guy that told him probably thought that it was true too. Wow. And the CIA used UFOs as a cover story for the A-12. It was the original SR-71 that was operating out of Groom Lake.
So that's proven, like they definitely said, hey, this was this was aliens, and then it was actually just a black budget project.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Now going back to Alternative 3, so one of the things that they talk about in Alternative 3 is that you need effectively slave labor to man some of these facilities, right? The people doing the sewage systems, the electrical systems, all this stuff. Yeah. The maids mopping the floor and all that conventional stuff. You still need that even though it's on Mars, right?
Right, yeah.
So in Alternative 3, they call it batch consignments. They basically kidnap people and ship them up there.
Oh.
Yeah, and so I thought to myself, aside from places like Africa where entire villages will vanish and nobody can explain it, they're just gone, there has to be some way to see if batch consignments are taking place. And so I got a copy, a PD or JPEG of the map that David Paulides he uses to document where all these disappearances in the national parks. Right.
Oh yeah.
Whoa.
Right. So I overlaid it. I overlaid it on top of a map made by this guy named Tall in like 1991. And Tall had supposedly been told about all these super secret saucer bases all over the U.S. And he had this map of the western states with all the underground rail lines and all this stuff. So I overlaid it. And wouldn't you know that pretty much bang on, those clusters of disappearances sit where they're supposedly saucer bases.
No way.
Wow.
Right. Man.
So when you did this, was it just kind of like you kind of knew it was going to line up, or was it a complete surprise?
It was a surprise. I just thought, what the hell? I'll give it a shot.
Wow.
So what do you do after you come across this information? Like, who do you tell? Like, putting myself in your shoes.
I wrote a book.
Okay. Well, there you go. What's the name of the book for people that are listening and want to read?
It's called The Secret Space Age.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. So all this stuff is just deep rooted. This is all just evidence and things that you're leading up to. There is a secret space program. Here's all the evidence. Here's all the stuff I can prove.
Yeah, here's the genesis of it.
Yeah.
And I'll give you another one. You want a really great one that'll blow your mind?
Let's go, baby.
Okay. So you know the chemtrail thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so everybody chemtrail. But there's an aircraft fleet there's a chemtrail fleet out there and whatever. No, there's no chemtrail fleet. So basically, they mix this stuff into the fuel. So every commercial airliner is part of the chemtrail fleet because they just randomly mix it into the fuel.
Come on.
There's actually a patent for an engine. And what the patent for this engine, it's a modification to a normal turbine engine for any airliner. Okay?
Okay.
A320, whatever, it doesn't matter. So this modification to the engine basically allows you to separate material inside the fuel and to shunt it out the side.
What?
So the normal JP7, the jet fuel, goes into the engine, combusts, turbine, yada yada. Well, there's a mechanism that is patented that allows you to separate certain things out of the fuel and blow them out the side. That's exactly what it's doing.
Whoa.
Now I know here's where it gets better. So you're wondering, well, what are chemtrails? Nobody's ever been able to conclusively prove what a goddamn chemtrail is.
Yeah.
Right? We just know we see them, blah blah. Okay. So in the 80s, Dr. Edward Teller, the guy who invented the hydrogen bomb, Teller wrote an article called Sunscreen for the Planet Earth. And basically what he hypothesized was that if you took metallic particulate like aluminum and dumped it at high altitude, it would change the reflectivity of the Earth to cool it, to reflect all the sunlight out. Okay. And he thought this was fantastic. So what you see, and I call this alternative 1.5, what you see is that if you actually look, okay, so there's this thing called global dimming. If you ever want to prove that chemtrails are real, there's this thing called global dimming. So what happened is that right after 9/11 happened, a bunch of atmospheric scientists ran outside and said, oh my God, there are no airplanes in the air, because all aircraft pretty much over North America were shut down.
Yeah.
For a few days.
Right.
I
remember that.
Right. And so these guys all went outside and they're like, oh my God, this is a unique thing that's never, ever going to happen again. I hope, I pray, but that should never happen again. We've got to take a bunch of measurements. And they proved conclusively that the temperature of the Earth, the temperature of the United States at least, rose by about 1 degree or 2 degrees.
Which is huge.
Which is massive.
Yeah.
And the amount of light coming down to the surface of the Earth increased exponentially.
Wow.
So if you've ever thought to yourself, gosh, it seems a lot darker than it used to when I was a kid, it actually is.
Wow.
And it's scientifically proven. And they call it global dimming. And it's one of the side effects of this shroud that they've created worldwide.
So
okay?
I'm thinking about just the ramifications of that. Does that mean that, okay, the powers that be know about this and they've been just staving off the effects just so we can keep this economy and this engine running, just so we can keep... I mean, what's the...
Well, what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're screwed.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You can't move everybody.
So what brings me to this question is, do you think there's a civilization that did exist in the 50s and just jumped planets, and then now we're just kind of left here to pick up the pieces, and then some other, another civilization?
I think the infrastructure went there in the 50s and has been upgraded ever since.
Okay. So I mean, it would only make sense like maybe some elite people, the top 1%, the top 0.5% would say, hey, take all my money, y'all can have it. I'm going to jump ship, go to Mars. If y'all got some stuff there, I just want to live, and live like...
I think the infrastructure is there to do that when the time comes.
Okay.
Okay.
Now I'll get to that, but I wanted to mention one thing before that. It was about the global dimming.
Yeah, sorry.
Never mind.
Sorry
no,
about that.
It's okay. It's all right. What was I going to say about the global? Oh yeah. So the idea was to dump this particulate in the upper atmosphere, right? So one of the things that's a byproduct of that is that eventually it falls to the earth and you inhale it.
Yeah.
And so there are two graphs, I put them in the book, but they're very interesting. One shows the temperature that was rising suddenly fall off in the 50s and kind of stabilize with a few spikes. Okay. All this stuff happens in the late 50s. The second thing is if you look at the rate of Alzheimer's disease, which is aluminum in your brain, it exponentially increases over time.
Whoa.
And the pits and the valleys kind of match the temperature. So when they're dumping more of this stuff up there to try to control the temperature and the weather, you're seeing a higher rate of Alzheimer's occur.
Wow. Whoa.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Right.
Wow.
That's
it's
insane.
interesting stuff.
So when people talk about how obviously like cars and all that stuff, they contribute to climate change and
one other thing. So the other thing I forgot is that if you look at the same thing for the amount of light reaching the surface of the earth, starting in the 50s, it goes down.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So then then planes are actually helping keep the planet cool, but the downside to that is that they're spraying all this crap all over us.
Yeah.
Yes. But it's the devil. It's the devil,
It's the double-edged sword. It's
right. What do you want? Do you want to burn to death, or would you rather go crazy?
So why, with that thought, I think a rational human being would be like, I'd rather not burn to death. Like, why do you think maybe the government is kind of or whoever's responsible for this is kind of like hiding the fact that this even happened? Do you think they're hiding it because?
Panic.
Yeah.
And I'll give you another example. So these ghost cities, these Chinese ghost cities, right?
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So if you look at the positions of the Chinese ghost cities, right, because the Chinese have all the manpower and labor in the world to build whatever the hell they want, because they just take 1 million people and go build this. I mean, for coronavirus, they built an entire 1,000-bed hospital in 4 days.
Damn.
Yeah, so they have these cities that are scattered all over China that are empty, and they have a few people live there like caretakers, but they're fully functional. If you look at the positions of those cities compared to sea level rise, the cities are basically beachfront property. And if you look at them relative to an ice age, because when the climate finally goes, that it's going to get super hot, and then it's going to get super cold because the climate will collapse. It'll just get insanely cold and plunge us into an ice age.
Damn.
So when that happens, if you look at the positions of the cities, they're at the ice line where the ice will come down to.
Whoa.
So they're like in the habitability zone for the entire collapse sequence.
Yeah. So maybe explain to people that are not familiar with these Chinese ghost cities. I mean, I've seen them, but I don't know. Maybe if you could talk to a little bit about that, Olaf.
Well, they're basically cities that the Chinese government built for like 1 million people that are empty. Yeah. Everything is there. The schools are there. They're equipped. They have hospitals. They're equipped. They have shopping centers, movie theaters, bowling alleys, high-rise apartments. Everything is there, but there's no people. And
That's spooky.
Right, and so what we're commonly told is, well, the Chinese government needed something to do, and they know their population is increasing so rapidly that they just built them. Well, people don't do stuff like that.
Right.
And the Chinese mentality is that when the Chinese think about problems, they don't think about problems a year from now. They don't think about problems 5 years from now.
Yeah, they're smart.
They think about problems 50 years or 100 years or 500 years from now. And they lay the groundwork to do that.
So they're preparing for that to happen.
Long-term thinking.
To move a massive amount of a population into these areas.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
That makes total sense.
Now, I do want to say that, I do believe that some UFOs are alien. I mean, I'm not saying they're all not, but I like to follow the Valley, kind of the conversation that Jacques Valley and Jalen Hynek had, that where it's that 90% of them are things that we can explain. They're piloted by people, they're drones, whatever. And then there's a 10% that's truly anomalous, and those are alien.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're coming. I don't think the blue chicken blue chicken sphere people, circle people are coming down from the sky to save us.
I'm so glad you referenced that.
There are no blue chicken circle people out there.
Yeah, for the people that know that, I'm just glad you said that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the blue chicken circle people.
Oh man,
it's a sham. It's a sham.
Yeah, and so I guess that's the story that I was referring at the beginning, Olav. I feel duped, but it really, hearing that story kind of got me really interested in this subject, the secret space program. But it just kind of came out that a lot of those ideas were stolen from actual research, and I think a lot of that research might have been.
Look, you're screwed when somebody who shall remain nameless, who avoided me like the plague, publishes a picture and says, "Oh my God, it's a Nazi space station on the moon, and it's a swastika. Look at that." Yeah. And it's actually a freeze frame from Iron Sky. When when we're using Iron Sky as the proof, you're screwed with it.
And there's like a scene where a person's riding a fucking Tyrannosaurus Rex.
That's the second one, yeah. That's Iron Sky too.
Yeah.
That's Hyperborea, the inner Earth.
Yeah, man, that's dude, that is crazy.
Man,
got blowing my mind.
Like I said, these individuals shall remain nameless. But
right.
I wanted to make a shirt that said I'm a big supporter of the blue chicken circle.
You definitely should, man.
He apparently trademarked all this stuff, so I don't want to get in trouble.
Oh my God.
Yeah, supposedly. But can you trademark that?
I did not know that.
It's like,
I don't know. I think it's ridiculous anyway.
Yeah, we have a couple of episodes at the beginning when we just started this podcast, and we have to go back and explain hey y'all, we did not know that this guy was a fraud. I'm sorry. So, it's good to hear someone who's been into this for a really long time kind of speak to that.
Yeah.
We don't have to say names, but
look, I think that if we say to ourselves, "Hey, we can't build the pyramids. Hey, we can't get to the moon. Hey, we can't get to Mars," I think we're shortchanging ourselves.
Absolutely.
As human beings, we're perfectly capable of building a space fleet if that's what we want to do.
Right. So, where do you think we are today? I mean, do you think this is still going on? Do you think it kind of died off? I mean,
No, not at all.
It's just more advanced, more
advanced, far more sophisticated,
man,
far more covert. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. There's a very famous thing that Buzz Aldrin talks about in what did he? A Magnificent Desolation. And Buzz Aldrin said, "I love Buzz. He's my kind of national hero.
Yeah.
I love this guy." And so there are two things about Buzz. So one, he did this interview on C-SPAN, and he said two things that were very interesting. One is that the guy asked him, "Hey, where did you get the name Magnificent Desolation?" And he said that when he was on the moon, he's looking around and it just kind of blows your mind. And he said he came back to Earth, and obviously he got invited to a cocktail party. I'm sure he got invited to many.
Yeah.
And somebody walked up to him and I said, "Hey, Buzz, can you describe the moon?" And he said, and remember, he's the guy that punched Bart Sabrell.
Yeah.
When Bart Sabrell was like, "You never went to the moon." He's like, "Fuck you, Buzz."
I love that guy.
Yeah.
Punched him. I was like, "Dude, right on, Buzz."
Yeah.
But anyway, so he said that he said that his mind went completely blank. He blurted out "Magnificent Desolation." He felt nauseous, went to the bathroom, and vomited.
Whoa.
And that's a classic mind control response.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like mind control type stuff.
Yeah.
But so I think that they already saw it fully functional when they landed.
Whoa.
And they were conditioned to not be able to tell you what they saw. Now in the same interview, right? I actually wrote an article about it. In the same interview, Buzz, this guy's like, "Buzz, so you're a big fan of Mars Express and going back to Mars and whatever, or going to Mars and whatever." He goes, yes. And he gets super excited and animated. And he says, "Well, what do you think?" And he says, "Look," I'm going to paraphrase, but he says, "Look, there's some weird stuff there, and we need to go with people and go see what this weird stuff is. And he said, there's a monolith on one of the moons on Mars, on Phobos.
Phobos,
Right.
yeah.
And he says, I don't know who put it there. God, the universe, I don't know who put it there, but we need to go see it, and we need to figure out what this thing is. And right then, and he's getting really excited. Right then, the guy who's hosting the show is like, yeah. Oh, we have a phone call. And this guy calls up. He's all, oh, Dr. Aldrin, because he has a PhD in aeronautical engineering. He goes, oh, Dr. Aldrin, you worked on the airlock system for the International Space Station. Can you tell me all about it? And it was almost like calculated, because you can see Buzz get like confused for a minute, and then kind of kick in an engineer Buzz.
Right.
So, I think it's breaking down now, but I think by the time those poor guys went, I think because remember they landed off target. If you listen to the module descent, what you hear is Neil Armstrong's flying the thing. And he's like, okay, Buzz, read me the fuel consumption and altitude. And so Aldrin's reading off the fuel consumption and altitude because they're off target and they're running out of fuel. And so Neil Armstrong's just trying to put the baby down somewhere.
I didn't know that.
Wow. Yeah. And so they landed significantly off target. And so because of that, it wasn't prepared for them. And I'm sure they saw stuff.
Dang.
Man, that's crazy.
So
that's crazy.
What do you think about people that think that we did not go to the moon? I'm just curious.
I have always believed and maintained that we absolutely went to the moon. It does not mean that what you see coming from the moon is real.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if you see them driving the lunar rover around, it's like Looney Tunes. It's the same like Three Mountains.
Yeah.
And also, there's some photos and video that just I think it's a mixture of things. I believe we went to the moon for sure, but I think some of the stuff the public have seen
is fake.
Yeah,
totally.
I agree.
Absolutely fake.
I agree.
But that doesn't mean we didn't go. I mean, you can.
Right.
When the lunar ascent module took off, the base unit is still there, and if you have a powerful enough telescope, you can actually see the lander, the lower part of the module, sitting on the moon. So it's not like we didn't go.
Right.
And one of the other things is they put up a series of mirrors, and what they do is they fire lasers to those mirrors to do range finding to figure out how close or far the moon is from the Earth. Well, if we never went, how did that mirror get there? Some dude from Moonbase Alpha didn't drive his rover over and drop it off. I think the Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong and the rest of the guys that went, I think they went through the process, that it was all very legitimate.
Yeah.
I just think they doctored some of the photos and they doctored the footage.
Right.
Yeah, totally. I think that too. So do you think that the everyday, space program that the public sees, do you feel like maybe that's like a front for something, or do you believe that
PR.
or I mean, I also like have the idea too that like there are like honest, hardworking people who believe that we are actually going to space right now, and they're putting the work into it. Yeah. They're putting the work in.
No, I don't think any of that is fake. I've known people who work for NASA. They are as pure and honest as a driven snow, and they really believe in what they're doing. And I think that's all part of the game. The NASA is, although there are some weird things about NASA, but in general, NASA is very much, on the day-to-day operations, 100% honest in what they're doing. I think there's some people in the hierarchy of NASA that are not. I think that there are some elements within NASA that are doctoring things, but I do think that most people that work at NASA are totally legit.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. The front of it, and why would you let the people know and let the rest of the world know what you're working on? It only makes sense if there's a public-facing space program. Like, we're not going to show y'all everything, and we're not even going to tell these astronauts everything. Why would we? So I guess I kind of got off topic, but hey, I wanted to ask you. So, have you seen these interviews with current astronauts and them explaining that we don't have the technology to go to the moon anymore? Have you seen those?
I've heard stuff. Yeah,
I have. And what I always go back to is there was a Caltech alumni dinner where what's his name? The head of the Skunk Works.
Ben Rich.
Yeah,
Lockheed Martin.
No.
No.
It's Ben Rich.
Oh,
yeah, Ben Rich.
I think it was Ben Rich.
Weird.
He went to a Caltech alumni dinner, and Jan Harzan, who's now head of MUFON, was actually there. He's a Caltech alumni, and he attests to this, the honest to God truth, that Ben Rich was the founder. I'm thinking of somebody else, the second guy, not Ben Rich.
Oh, okay.
It's the other guy. But anyway, he went to a Caltech alumni dinner, and he said, point blank, he said, you know what? Not only do I have the technology to take ET home, I got the contract. So a guy like that does not say, not only do I have the technology to take ET home, I got the contract, unless he does.
Yeah.
Talk about money.
And that's the head of the Lockheed Skunk Works.
Yeah.
So, I think we absolutely have the ability to do it. But again, I think that those astronauts that are saying that, they're not in DARPA. They're not working for Lockheed.
Right.
I think they're expressing to you with 100% honesty.
Right. I think so too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if you
I take people at face value. I don't, you can't walk up to an astrophysicist who works for the ESA or NASA and say, you're lying. How do you know they're lying? They go to work every day. They work on satellites or radio astronomy or whatever. They're doing what they believe in. I don't think they're lying at all.
Yeah.
But that also doesn't mean that everything that comes out of NASA or any government is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing for people to realize because I'm in that same exact boat. Like everybody's like, oh, NASA's fake. NASA does this.
Never a straight answer.
Yeah, never a straight answer or nuking asshole space aliens, whatever you want to call it. And it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I mean, but these people, they're going to work, they're doing their job. That's exactly what they believe, and they can only tell you. Yeah,
I'll give you a fantastic example. So when's the last time you used GPS?
Today.
Okay. There's a constellation of satellites up there, right? They're the GPS satellites, and we all rely on them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what they actually do? They're multifunctional. Do you know what one of their main functions is?
I don't.
Okay, it's not
Triangulation?
GPS. No. So the GPS satellites are actually owned by the Air Force. So when you use GPS, you're using an Air Force satellite.
Huh.
What those satellites are actually really doing is that they have something called a flash detector. So on every one of those satellites, because of the way that they travel, right, they get a great view of everything. When there's a nuclear detonation, like above ground nuclear test, the flash detector will see it, and it can tell not only where it was, because it's a damn GPS satellite.
Right.
Not only can it tell where it was, it can tell the strength of the nuclear detonation, what kind of material was it used in the nuclear detonation, and in some cases where that nuclear material was found.
Huh.
Whoa.
And it's on every GPS satellite.
Damn.
Whoa. Nuclear detection devices. First and foremost.
Nuclear detonation detection device.
Got it.
Whoa.
But it's not exactly a secret, but they just don't talk about it.
Right.
Now the guys that built these satellites, they probably didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
They're probably like, well, it's going to help the military, know where they are. Eventually it'll help you drive to the 7-Eleven, whatever. But there's a byproduct of it. They just don't talk about it.
Wow.
So, I mean, NASA is filled with wonderful, amazing people doing amazing things, but they don't work for DARPA.
Right.
And they don't work for Lockheed. So if they don't work for Lockheed or DARPA, they probably don't know.
Right. Dang.
That's
crazy. So there's always like another side of the coin, or maybe there's 6 sides to the coin. 6 sides to the coin. When it comes to
a wise old man once told me that if you ever want to hide something, you hide it under the flagpole. Meaning that if you want to hide something, you hide it in plain sight.
Right.
Because nobody ever looks.
Well, that makes me think of like you hide it under like patriotism, that like my conspiratorial brain is going,
That too, but it's right in front of you. In fact, in conspiracy theory, there's a thing called the revelation of the method. And that's this notion that when they do something conspiratorial, they show it to you before they do it. So you actually see what they're going to do before they do it. You just don't believe it. And I'll give you a great example of that. So you remember that miniseries, the X-Files miniseries?
Yeah.
And there was a whole allusion to the secret space program in that series. Yeah, that's literally my book condensed down to what 4 episodes.
Oh, damn! Really?
It's no, dude. It's literally my book. When I watched the last one, the bit where I wrote an article about it, the bit where Mulder and Scully are behind the car, and Scully's like, I don't believe it, and he lays out this whole thing about the climate collapsing and moving people to Mars and all that crap. Yeah. I called up one of my friends. I'm like, dude, Chris Carter just quoted my book.
Bro,
that's insane.
So, I mean, were you flattered, or were you like, where's my paycheck?
No, I was flattered. I don't care.
That's so cool, man.
And I was actually told by somebody that has the connection to it that's exactly what they did. That Chris Carter literally read my book and then filmed it as the X-Files.
Wow.
If you read my book and then watch that, you'll totally understand.
Yes. I plan on purchasing that pretty soon. That book. When I started looking it up, I was like, oh, that's gonna be a great read. I definitely need to get that book.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Dude, you're blowing my mind, dude.
I've been told that before.
Oh, it's good stuff, dude. It's good stuff. Hey, so if you don't mind, I want to switch gears just a little bit.
Sure.
I loved your interpretation on what you thought was going on with the Hellier series. Me and Ben were super into that. And I know you're kind of like into the occult stuff as well. I mean, I am. Dude, could you kind of like give us the rundown a little bit? Because I've heard a little bit of it, but Ben hasn't heard any yet.
I'm so stoked.
Well, so basically I watched it, and I actually publish the complete cipher of the UFO knots, which is what they use in the show. They actually show it, And I'm friends with Alan Greenfield, the guy who wrote it.
Right.
I'm a big fan of Alan Greenfield. In fact, he's been helping me a lot. So I watched the whole thing, and I'm like, they're going through an invocation, right? That this whole thing is some sort of it's called a working, where it's a series of rituals that culminate in a big ritual, right?
So it's like the beginning, like invocation in like the Catholic religion is like the first prayer, like introduction, right?
Exactly. Yes. And they're being initiated into the working itself, and they're going through the hero's journey and all this other stuff. So one of the big questions I asked myself, there were 2 big questions I asked myself initially, and then the obvious third question came along. The first question is, why them? They're like the totally wrong people to do this. Right, they're ghost hunters. They have a traveling haunted stuff exhibit, which is looks totally awesome. I totally want to see it, and I'm a big fan. I think the show is great. Yada yada. But they're the wrong people to do this. She's a Wiccan. This kind of occultism is not Wicca. Wicca is a nature religion. This is hardcore Aleister Crowley time. This is some big, they're trying to invoke Pan. Spoiler. They're trying to invoke Pan. This is not something you do, in the hymn of Pan. This is not like Wicca. I know plenty of Wiccans. I know a few witches, great people, but this is not it. Okay. Yeah. So why them? Why did terrorists choose them?
Right.
That I still cannot fathom. The second thing is, why Hellier? You could do this anywhere, but why Hellier?
Exactly.
And obviously, there's the goblin thing from the 50s. The goblin thing happened in the 50s. It didn't happen like in the 90s.
Right.
It happened in like the 50s. I mean, they just did it on Project Blue Book, right?
Right. Yeah, I saw that episode.
It happened in the 50s, right?
Yeah.
So why Hellier? Well, if you look at Hellier for a lot of reasons, it actually makes a lot of sense. Number one, Hellier itself and the location of the mine or the tunnel where they keep going is near a fault line. And I in the article, I actually put a link to a kind of study that this guy did, not an in-depth one, kind of a fast one, but he says point blank, that there is more paranormal activity around fault lines. And fault lines generate a tremendous amount of energy. Mm-hmm. The second thing is that that Hellier has a conduit of placer-like material that came from a glacier that runs pretty much from Hellier to Point Pleasant. And when you talk about placer material, you're talking about like quartz veins. So a lot of quartz crystal, that kind of crystal, and it's pretty much a conduit that runs directly from Hellier to Point Pleasant where the Mothman was. Okay.
Right.
The other thing is that the entire plateau that they're sitting on, Hellier included, the whole thing is zinc nitrate. There's a layer of zinc nitrate that permeates that entire area, and the zinc nitrate is very tiny zinc crystals. So the whole thing is peppered with crystals, small ones, but there's just an enormous amount of them covering the entire thing.
Yeah.
It's also sitting on a limestone plateau, and there's an indication that limestone seems to be some sort of a paranormal conduit. So if you look at where Hellier is, the location of it looks like it's a huge energy amplifier. Right. If you look at it from an occultist or, kind of paranormal point of view, that Hellier itself is sitting on what is probably a huge amplifier.
Right. So you've got these aquifers, right, for millions of years running beneath or through these limestone areas, and then you have all these quartz crystals, which few are, or we are many, like these little tiny ones, but all together is kind of like this amplification device. Yeah. You got this vibration and frequency from these aquifers running with this water. I don't know, my brain goes crazy.
It's like a giant battery almost.
Right. Yeah. And so what you're looking at is kind of a prime spot for an amplifier. So whatever they're doing, and I have my own theories about what's going on, but whatever they're doing, right, it's being amplified. So that's why Hellier. And then the third question that comes to you inevitably is, what are they doing?
Right.
What's the point of all this, right? Because Terry Wrist is obviously taking them on a well, I'd say a mind F word, but he's taking them on a trip.
You can cuss on this podcast. You can do whatever.
Terry Wrist is obviously engaging in some level of a mind fuck here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a mindfuck designed to keep them interested and keep them moving forward. I'm not saying any of it is negative. I'm just saying that there's an ulterior motive here. And I think that Wrist is attempting to get them to carry out a series of rituals, which they may do right and they may do wrong, but a series of rituals that culminate in an event. And when you watch it, you become entangled in the event. If you want to, you always have a choice,
and that's what they showed in the video was like, or through one of their experiments, they said just by showing people what you're watching is amplifying this whole experience.
Yes, and only if you wanted to, though.
Okay.
If you're closed to it, and you just want to watch it on TV, that's okay too. But if you're open to it, you become a part of it.
Yeah,
and that's what happened to me. But I think that because they keep talking about gateways, these little goblins are the gateway keepers and all the protectors and all this crap. I think what they're actually doing is that back in the 50s, Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard into the desert, and they did this thing called the Babylon Working, where Parsons attempted to energy that he called the Babylon down and into this woman to impregnate her. Well, he failed. He opened the portal, but he failed. And eventually the woman and L. Ron Hubbard stole all his money and took off.
Oh, dude. L. Ron Hubbard's always stealing people's money, dude. What the hell?
And after that, Crowley basically disowned Jack Parsons, who, he had this love affair with Jack Parsons. Well, after that, Crowley said that he was an idiot, basically. And I think that the culmination of this is to close that portal.
Oh, Okay. Whoa.
Yeah, interesting.
Whoa. So this event.
Because Terry Wrist would know this because he's an occultist.
Whoa.
Amongst other things, Terry Wrist is an occultist. See, Greenfield, the reason the book is heavily used, besides the secret cipher, which is its own fascinating thing to deal with, Greenfield interviewed Wrist.
Right.
So
Really?
Greenfield knows Wrist.
Huh. Okay, so I think I remember Greenfield talking about. He does in the movie, does he divulge that he actually personally knows this guy?
He
Okay.
says that
He personally knew Wrist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, not personally. He said they were kind of acquaintances.
Yeah.
But he's met Wrist. He interviewed Wrist. He's met Wrist a number of times. He interviewed Wrist. So yeah, no, he knows what he looks like. Well, he knew what he looked like back then.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So while I'm thinking about it, I think our connection kind of scrambled a little bit when you're explaining about what ceremony they were doing. Something about impregnating. That was some kind of act. Could you kind of say that again?
So Jack Parsons goes out in the desert with L. Ron Hubbard, and the idea is that they open a portal and then they bring down this feminine energy and impregnate. There was some sex magic. Impregnate this woman. I can't remember her name offhand, but he failed. He screwed it up, and the portal may still be open.
Oh, so that is like
so they go back to close the portal.
That's the beginning of
think.
it. So he's waited all this time to now try to close it, and then.
Well, no, it doesn't work that way.
Oh.
So it's not that Terry Wrist waited all this time. Is that what I believe is happening? Is that there's a group called the Secret Chiefs of the Third Order. They're kind of like beneficial, spiritual, enlightened beings that sit up in the ether space above our head somewhere. And then they use intermediaries to carry out things that need to be done. And I think that Wrist is the intermediary to the Secret Chiefs of the Third Order. And they're telling Wrist, okay, Wrist, go get these people over here to do this thing. And so that's what he's doing. He's executing their will.
Wow. Dude.
And just trust me. Trust me. The Secret Chiefs of the Third Order absolutely exist. Ooh. I can tell you unequivocally they are real.
Really?
That just gave me chills, man. I don't know why, but
dude.
They're absolutely 100% real.
And
no BS.
I don't mean to poke and pry, but are these physical beings? Are they
No.
Okay.
They were.
Okay.
Ooh.
They were, but they became enlightened, illuminated, and they're now spiritual beings.
Oh wow.
I love this. I love this stuff, man. I'm so interested.
Yeah. I did a whole podcast on what happened to me.
Oh man.
I mean,
what podcast is that on?
Yeah, what podcast?
the Paranoia Podcast.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I interviewed Greenfield about it.
Oh.
In fact, you should probably talk to Greenfield.
I'd love to.
Yeah, we'd love to. Yeah. We'd love to have both of you guys on. I'd love to just listen to y'all's conversation. We don't even have to talk.
Well, and I'll give you a great example of how it works. Not the big event that happened to me, but here's a little one. So I have a friend, and we were going on an adventure. We try to go to interesting places and see interesting things and do interesting stuff. And inevitably, when you're adventuring, you stay in hotels, right? And
right.
I go. We were doing something locally, so I go check in the hotel. And when I checked into the hotel, because we were both going to be there, that's how this works. The room number that I got was 333.
Oh, okay.
That's a 93.
Yep,
significant.
93.
Yeah.
Right. That's just one example.
Wow.
So you've experienced the same kind of synchronicities that were kind of displayed in this Hellier stuff. That's kind of like just the tip of the iceberg, right? Like.
Oh yeah. No, I've had very similar things happen to me. They're different because my path is different.
Yeah.
But I've definitely absolutely had a bunch of really crazy synchronicities.
Yeah. So, oh man, I'm so interested in this. I want to just kind of ask you, in Hellier, there's this synchronicity with the balloon thing. Is there any significance that you can speak of that okay, so you've heard this before, or is that a totally new thing? Because I'm conflicted about it, because it's something that could be easily replicated.
The balloon is a message. it's not a thing in and of itself. It's a message.
Okay.
You know, and I think they correctly interpreted the balloon as the blue sapphire.
Yes, it was like a star. It was a
five-sided blue sapphire star.
Yeah.
In my case, I seem to have an attraction to emeralds. That emeralds are pervasive. Green and emeralds are pervasive in my life for some reason.
Right.
Huh. And I think I figured it out, but we shall see. But in the case of the blue star sapphire, yeah, I mean, it's a symbol. I've never seen that before, but you know, the secret chiefs wanted to send them a message. And so, you know, Terry Riss didn't do that. The secret chiefs did. And the secret chiefs wanted them to do it. So they sent them a blue star balloon. And in my case, you know, I went to, so stupid. I went to a Cub Scout thing, and you know, what do I see? Blue star balloons.
Huh.
Interesting.
Right.
I mean, first off, Cub Scouts are dope. Like, I mean, I wish I wish I would have been.
I used to like it back in the day.
Oh, I was cool. I was a Cub Scout.
Oh yeah.
That sounds like it would have been so much fun. I missed out.
So is this something like that you have to be into in order for it to happen to you, or is this something that can just happen to you? And
you have to be open.
Right. So I mean, you could maybe just one day start noticing things and then kind of dive into it, and then before
I'll give
you
you
know
a great
it.
Example. I have a friend on Facebook. She is very interested in this stuff, and she was saying, "Why can't this stuff happen to me?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, you just have to let the powers that be know you want it."
Mm.
And so if I remember correctly, she went outside one night, said, "Hey, secret chiefs, send me a message." And it's been nonstop ever since.
Ooh.
Whoa,
man. So I'm curious what your thought is. I'm just kind of like going through this kind of cognitive change or I think me and Joe are kind of at the same level, but we're seeing this connection between your intent with whether it be UFOs, aliens, ghosts, the occults, or mysticism. Right. There's this one binding factor that connects all of these frames of
it's
thought.
Intent.
Yeah, I think that's like the language or the blood of this. Like
it is. Yeah. It's the intent. And one of the things that I had approached Greenfield years ago and started reprinting his book. And at that time, very few people bought it. It's from the 90s. It's a very arcane book. You know, you had to kind of understand, because it's a mixture of occultism and ufology. You have to kind of understand what you're reading a little bit,
right.
You know, or at least be open to asking questions and other stuff. And, you know, very few people bought it. And then one day, you know, suddenly a bunch of people started buying it, and Alan and I were like, what the hell, you know? And then I had resisted watching Hellier for years because I thought it was about Paul Hellier. And I'm kind of over it. I'm like, no, I'm not interested in Paul Hellier's stuff, but whatever. And my friend named Taylor, he finally convinced, he's like, no, dude, you got to watch this. And within 10 minutes of watching it, the synchronicity started.
Ooh.
Yeah, because I'm inexorably bound to it because I published the book.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons that I had gone to Greenfield and asked for his permission to publish the book, reprint it, is that the guy who had originally printed it was a guy named Ron Bonds, and he had a thing called Illuminate Press. Well, Ron Bonds went to a Mexican restaurant and had a bad meal and was dead 24 hours later.
Whoa.
Right? Yeah, and he published Jim Keith and a bunch of people, and he was a big conspiracy book publisher. And so, you know, everybody's like, oh, Ron Bonds got taken out. Well, you know, I not to deter me, of course, I'm like, well, Alan, I want to publish this book. And one of the reasons why is because he talks a lot about the notion of the ultra-terrestrial, that this idea that ghosts and UFOs and Bigfoot, you know, all these Fortean things, they're all disparate, and that's not true. They're all connected. In fact, the secret cipher itself is a thelemic thing, that it uses the Book of Law from Crowley. and it does like a substitution cipher that each letter has a different number, and then you add the numbers up and it gives you an outcome, and then you find other words that have the same numeric value, and then those words should give you a message or an intent.
Wow.
Right. And so, it works because everything is interlinked. It's not like you just have UFOs or you just have ghosts, poltergeists, there's chupacabra. It's all mixed together. It's all one anomalous thing, and they're somehow tied together.
Right.
So I love that idea, and I really buy into it. So, at least for the stuff that's not man-made or human-made.
Right.
Definitely. So I was like, I want to print this because I want people to have an option that isn't Ancient Aliens. Now, I'd love to go on Ancient Aliens too.
Yeah.
David Hatcher. Well, David Hatcher Childress is a beautiful, wonderful guy, and he actually publishes the Secret Space Age on Adventures Unlimited. I'm a huge fan. I've got all of his books. I love the guy to death.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a great guy and a nice dude. If you ever meet him, wonderful dude.
Love to.
Well, anyway, yeah, but I wanted people to have an alternative that's a different view, that maybe they're not aliens.
Yeah.
Maybe they're ultra terrestrial beings from another dimension or whatever. So I really wanted to publish it, and lo and behold, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, well, more than 4, 5 or 6 years later, it gets put on this, documentary TV show, and then now my life is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I just love the thought of that. I think a lot of our culture today kind of makes us believe that we're powerless, and all this stuff that we're into right now.
By design.
And I feel like it makes me feel like, man, we're so much more capable.
Yeah, powerful.
Not that
we absolutely are.
Yeah, it's not that we're making this up in our mind, but it's just that certain people are sensitive and are open to certain things, or able to access magic. Really, if you think about it,
right? And
can't think of a better word, but.
I call it occult sciences or occult engineering. I'm not a Thelemite. That's not my religion.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't, I'm an Episcopalian. I'm a Protestant.
Right on.
Yeah. I don't see, and that's one of the struggles that the one guy has on the show, is that I believe he's Catholic, and he's,
right.
He's having this struggle because these occulty things are happening.
Sure.
I think it's a science we don't understand, having to do with the ether. And one of the things, Crowley was a lot of things, good and bad. But one of the things that Crowley would say is that, the power is within you to do this stuff. It's not, you have the power to be able to manifest things and to do things and to manipulate time and space and all these things. You have the power within you to do it. And, you can take what Crowley has written. Again, I don't belong to the OTO. I'm not a Thelemite, but, there's good and bad in there, right? I mean, he did call himself the Antichrist and the beast. But,
Yeah.
But that aside,
that's not good.
No, but that aside, I mean, there are things that are interesting, and there is a kind of idea that you have the capability to do whatever you want to do, and I think that's an interesting thing, and I think that's something that we should all buy into.
Yeah, I want to look more into the statement of Antichrist, because you can take it either like a really negative way, or I'm sure there's multiple different angles you can look at that.
Right.
But it makes me only want to research him even more, Aleister Crowley. So yeah.
Oh yeah. If you want an interesting view of the Antichrist, and you're a fan of Ground Zero, you should look up the AC/DC God. If you have the Paranoia channel on your Roku, you can actually find a thing on there. It's called the AC/DC God. It's under the Ground Zero videos, and it's Clyde's presentation on the Antichrist, which he believes is Prince William.
Cool. Whoa. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that out, because I actually saw
There's
it.
Got a whole logical thing about it.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that out, because I saw it scrolling through, and I was like, "Ooh, we're gonna have to get on this for sure."
Hell yeah.
So yeah, that's awesome. I'm gonna be binge watching a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I've got a lot of homework now. Olaf, you've given my next month of research, my friend.
There you go.
Definitely.
But man, it's a growth thing, that it's not something you figure out overnight. It just kind of comes to you. You know, I'd spent years and years and years reading this stuff, and I never really did anything about it. And one day, you know, before I watched Hellier, actually, one day a friend of mine needed some help cleansing their house, and I was like, okay, I know how to do this. So I went and helped her cleanse the house. And then I watched Hellier, and then it all came unglued.
Whoa.
You know, and for example, I had a friend, the same friend whose house I cleansed, you know, we're having lunch. And I had told her that I was just sitting outside looking up at the sky like I'm doing right now. And 3 stars formed an equilateral triangle, and it became very obvious to me, those stars, and it shouldn't have. But they were.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then she had this suddenly into her, she's empathic, and suddenly this symbol of a triangle with swirly lines suddenly just popped into her head.
Whoa.
Cool.
Right.
Dang.
And, you know, and then I had, you know, I had a somewhat mystical experience, and the next day I went to Half Price Books. Of all the mundane things to do, I went to Half Price Books, and I was in the rare book section. Well, I'm like, rare books at Half Price Books. Okay, whatever. Well, they had this like old copy of Practical Magic and Theory by Crowley, and I felt compelled to buy it for some reason. There's some odd synchronicities that within the book, just the book, without opening the book, of why I felt super compelled to buy it. It's a long story. I'll just bore you to death. But I called Greenfield. I said, hey, you know, I was just compelled, because I always ask Alan when some of these things happen, because I need some clarity, because I don't necessarily understand the meanings.
Uh-huh.
And he said, well, obviously they, Secret Chiefs, wanted you to read the book. So read the book, and something will pop out at you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I start reading the book. I'm in the first or the second damn chapter, and this thing pops out at me, and it's like, if you want to summon a god, you make a circle. If you want to summon a spirit, you make a triangle. And here I've had this whole like synchronicity of triangles.
Yes.
Right. That's fun.
And this crazy synchronicity about emeralds. And there's some, I can't get into it, but there's a reason why the emerald.
So is that like have to do with light refraction and like the shape of the triangle making it green of some sort? I'm just like reaching at straws here.
No, no, it has nothing to do with any of that.
Yeah,
there's 2 reasons. One of which is that the emerald is invoking an emerald is used to ask for health and also foresight.
yeah.
Okay.
You know, you can use it to try to scry the future. The other thing I can't tell you about.
Yeah. No worries, man. No worries.
I'm sworn to secrecy, unfortunately.
Dang it.
Yep.
But suffice it to say, it's yet another synchronicity.
Yeah. Wow. Man.
Dude.
Well, not a creepy one, but a really crazy one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, no worries, man. If you got to keep secrets,
yeah, no worries.
I understand. This stuff has a lot of secrets to it, so no worries. No worries on that, man.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah. That's great, dude. Well, man, I want to say thank you very much for hopping on with us tonight and chit-chatting with us. I would definitely would love to have you back on again.
Yes, definitely.
Anytime.
And we can keep chit-chatting, man. I could pick your brain for hours, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, man, this has been absolutely awesome. I'm so glad that we were able to meet you. A big thanks to Dave for introducing us to you, man.
Yeah.
Big shout outs to Dave.
Yeah, that's right,
Space
man.
Star Radio.
Space Out Radio, Dave Scott, check it out.
That's right.
Dave, oddly, Dave is a part of it.
Oh, really?
What happened to me?
Oh man. Okay, so next time you're on the podcast, you have to tell that story then.
It might be the secret, though.
Oh no.
No, it's not. It's not a secret.
Okay.
Nice.
We discussed it on his show.
Oh,
okay.
Cool. Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, thank you again for spending your time with us.
Yes.
Our listeners are
problem.
totally going to appreciate this, man, and we're definitely going to have you back on again soon. All right, man.
Sure.
All right, brother. Well,
It
you
was
have
a
a
lot
good.
of fun.
Yeah, thank you very much, dude.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
so much, brother.
Oh, no problem. It was a pleasure and an honor. I
Awesome,
appreciate
man.
it.
Well, you have a great night. All right, dude.
You too.
All right, man. We'll talk to you later, brother.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace.
Aloha.
All right.
So, dude, that was crazy.
Mind blown.
Good. Yeah, dude, he was an awesome guest, man.
Yeah.
He was really, really awesome.
Yeah, I have so many questions, so we're gonna have to get him back on, and I want to talk more about magic.
Yeah.
Man, I like all the flying and the magic.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah. Man, that was so good. I'm glad he gave us some clarity on the secret space program.
Right.
And I'm glad he gave us his opinion on Hellier.
Yeah.
Because we were big fans on that. But I mean, yeah, the dude is awesome.
Yeah. Love that guy.
He's written a lot of stuff. I mean, like I said, he's a real behind the scenes kind of guy, but I mean he's like seems to like make a lot of shit happen.
Yeah.
And dude, I mean,
I was like talking to the source.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of how I felt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was like, "Yeah, you guys should have Greenfield on your show." I was like, yeah.
Okay.
Of course, dude. Hell yeah, that would be so awesome.
Man, so I just kind of like recap like secret space program, a little bit of magic, some Hellier stuff. Lots of some Nazi stuff with the secret space program.
Yeah.
Man, it's just kind of like all swirling in my head.
I know, me too. I know, me too. Me too.
Dude, so awesome.
And I mean, I'm sure this guy's got a million stories.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a writer,
Right.
dude, I mean, yeah.
We got to get him back on.
Absolutely.
I'm sure going to think of a lot of questions I should have asked. But I feel like we did pretty good.
We did do pretty good.
Yeah.
We did do pretty good.
Yeah, dude.
Hell yeah, high five, bro.
Dude.
Yes.
Oh, I forgot. I have coronavirus.
Oh, you have coronavirus?
Sorry, dude.
It'll be all right, dude. It's okay.
That's not funny. I am sorry. Oh, man.
I mean, dude, if you have it, you realize you only have a 98% chance of living.
Oh, shit. Is it that low?
Oh, dude. So you guys might have noticed that we had like a different intro song. I want to give a shout out to Robbie.
Yes.
You guys will probably hear a couple different ones. Kind of trying something new out. Yeah. So if you like it,
change up the vibe.
Yeah. Tell us whether or not you like it, or if you think it's crap, then tell us it's crap, and we'll move to the next one. But I thought it was pretty cool, man.
Yeah, I love that song, dude. I'm gonna bump that.
Definitely. So, shout out to you, Robbie. Thank you so much for all the tracks. Super cool, man.
Yeah.
Definitely appreciate it. Dude, I mean, like, it seems like, this was kind of a journey that we set off, on, like, kind of by ourselves.
Yeah.
And it like, with every episode, I feel like there's more and more of a team.
Yeah.
That, like, nobody else sees, but, like, we've made so many friends.
Yeah.
We got so many people willing to help us out. So many people willing to talk to us.
Right.
I mean, everybody's just been so nice about this whole thing.
And like giving up their time out of their night just to talk to us for free. Like, I mean, yeah, we're plugging their stuff, but like, dude, you can't ask for that. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You can ask for that apparently, because I mean, everyone that we've talked to, I love that idea. Like, we are kind of building a team.
Yeah,
and the mission is just to get this stuff out there and talk about it, so other people know about it, and it's just kind of a self-fulfilling snowball.
We're super appreciative.
Appreciative
about the whole thing. So thank you to everybody who's helped us out. Thank you to everybody who's donated. Thank you to everybody who just watches and enjoys it. I mean, if it wasn't for all of you guys, I mean,
we would just be talking to ourselves at a bar or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But the fact that we have listeners all the time, it's just, man, thank y'all for listening. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
And watching on YouTube.
Very much.
Dumb faces.
And I think, dude, I mean, I feel like our guest quality is really just gonna go up. From here. I mean, every guest that we've had on,
we haven't had a bad guest yet.
Yeah, has been just phenomenal.
Yeah, it's really unreal the amount of people that we've been able to talk to. It's really crazy.
It's super, super cool, man.
Yeah,
I haven't been disappointed with a guest yet.
Yeah.
And they get a lot of positive feedback too, man. So that's really, really cool.
We enjoy feedback. So you guys listening, let us know what you think. We want feedback. You know, we want to make this show better. We want to continue to put out good content and keep you laughing and keep you informed. I mean, yeah, I think our platform is really just like two dudes drinking beer, talking about UFOs and aliens and all things weird, man.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Got to stay true to the course, man.
Staying true to the cause, baby. All right,
Yes, sir.
dumb.
Yes,
That was
sir.
dumb.
So, guys, don't forget, go check out UFO Garage.
Oh, dude, we got new T-shirts.
Dude, hey,
Check it out. It's the Impala, and we got the new Impala with the alien being abducted instead.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I should pull up the gentleman's name that was his idea. Dang it. That's going to take too much time.
Yeah, it's way back.
It's way
there.
back.
It's way back.
But
there.
yeah, one of our guests or one of our listeners requested this design, and we made it in like one day. So it came out good. And I love this one because it's super simple, but I'm going to change it so it's kind of off.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, like put it down.
A little lower.
It's a little up high right now. But yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Awesome. Well, yeah, man. We're gonna have some more guests coming on pretty soon.
We got what? Are we still doing Friday?
Sunday.
So just Sunday right now.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Sunday
Okay. I might have a guest for Friday if we want to do a guest.
for Friday.
We might just do a goofy one on Friday. I don't know. Whatever you want. But
Okay.
just to kind of, build stuff up because you're having
Right.
the baby soon. So might as well
Yep.
save up some content.
Yep.
Yeah.
But Sunday's gonna be a big one, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, we got it set up. I'm just waiting for him to confirm the time.
Yeah.
We have Terry Lovelace coming on the show. He's written a book called Incident at Devil's Den.
Nice.
I'm super excited. That's an awesome story. I can't wait for you guys to hear it if you haven't heard of him. And if you hadn't, and we haven't put the show out yet, maybe look him up, do a little bit of research on him, man. I mean, the guy's story is awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. So I'm super excited to have him on and talk with him.
Yeah.
And he's going to be cool, too, because he's a local guy. He's in the Texas area as well. So
Yeah.
that time will be, easy to match.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Well, he could be in the studio, right? He could come in the studio, or do you think he's too far away?
I think he's too far away.
Okay, well.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe
Yeah.
next time.
But, yeah. All right, man.
All right, bro.
All right. So is that it for you, man?
That's it for me, dude.
All right, man. Well, there's another episode of UFO Garage. Talk to y'all later.